Imagine for a moment that every street, every corner, and every place you have ever visited is not neutral ground but a silent witness that already knows your presence. The world around you does not merely host your movements, it anticipates them, remembers them, and weaves them into a script long before you arrive. You are not a traveler moving through space, you are an actor stepping into a role that the stage has already prepared. Every place carries memory, every path carries recognition, and every destination already waits for you. Streets anticipate your steps. From the moment you step onto a street, there is a sense that the ground beneath you is not entirely new. The cracks in the pavement, the faded lines of crosswalks, the subtle echoes of countless footsteps, they all seem to acknowledge yours, as though they have been expecting you. You walk, but you do not walk alone. The street is already alive with anticipation, recording each sound, each shadow, each fragment of presence, as though your journey had been rehearsed long before your feet touched the ground. Cities are built on repetition, and streets are their most fluent language. Generations have walked them, layered one upon another like sedimentary rock. Every shoe, every wheel, every breath of movement has left something behind. When you arrive, it is not as a stranger, but as part of an ongoing rhythm that has been playing for centuries. The street does not ask who you are, it recognizes you as a continuation of what has always been. There is a peculiar intimacy to this recognition. You may feel it in the way a street lamp flickers as you pass, or in the way your footsteps echo just slightly delayed, as if returning a greeting. The streets are not inert channels of transport, they are memory systems disguised as concrete. They anticipate you because they have already absorbed every pattern of human movement. They know that someone will come, and when you appear, it feels less like coincidence and more like inevitability. Consider the way streets guide you. You think you are choosing where to walk, but how often do you take the same route without thinking? Your body follows familiar lines, even in new cities. There is a force at work. Call it habit, call it geography, or perhaps call it something stranger, the street itself drawing you into its rhythm. It knows where you are going before you decide. That is why sometimes, on unfamiliar ground, you feel déjà vu. The corners seem rehearsed, the turns already practiced. And it is not just physical memory. Streets carry emotional residues, the laughter of a festival, the grief of a funeral procession, the anger of a protest. All these linger like invisible graffiti. When you walk through them, you are not only retracing physical steps but emotional ones. The street anticipates you because it has already absorbed every possible mood, every possible event, and it adjusts its resonance to meet yours. That is why you sometimes feel strangely comforted in one place and unsettled in another. Paradoxically, you may believe you are alone, yet the street insists otherwise. Even if no one else is there, you are surrounded by ghosts of those who walked before. Their footsteps layer with yours, their shadows overlap with yours, their breath lingers in the same air. The anticipation you feel is not simply the material of concrete and stone, but the accumulation of memory pressing forward into your moment. Philosophers once argued that space was empty until humans filled it with meaning. But perhaps the opposite is true. Perhaps streets come preloaded with meaning, and humans merely stumble into it. When you arrive, the street has already set the stage. It is not you who animates it. It is the street that animates you, nudging your pace, suggesting your pauses, whispering familiarity into your bones. This leads to an unsettling possibility, that you do not walk the street, that the street walks you. Your steps are not individual choices, but responses to an invisible choreography. Your sense of autonomy bends in subtle ways. You speed up without knowing why. You slow at a corner, as though waiting for someone. The street is not just anticipating you, it is shaping you. And what does this mean for your sense of self? If every street you step upon has already anticipated your arrival, then your life is not entirely your own. Each place is less a backdrop and more a co-conspirator. You are entangled with the memory of stone and shadow, woven into a web of recognition that erases the boundary between traveler and terrain. You cannot escape this intimacy. Even when you try to wander aimlessly, streets will still anticipate, still absorb, still guide. The paradox is clear. You believe you are free, yet you are endlessly known. Every place you arrive greets you as though you have always belonged there, as though you were not arriving but returning. Streets anticipate your steps, and in doing so, they remind you that you were never truly lost. Rooms inherit unseen memory. Step into a room, and you imagine you are entering a blank space, a container emptied of all that came before. But if you pause, you will notice an undercurrent. a sensation that this room knows something of you, even before you have left your mark upon it. Walls do not forget. Floors do not erase. Ceilings, windows, and the faint scent of air carry an unseen memory that no act of cleaning, no stroke of paint, can ever fully conceal. You do not simply enter a room, you awaken what has been waiting for you inside. Rooms are archives of presence. Every visitor who has stood in them has left a trace. A breath absorbed into the grain of wood, a vibration etched into plaster, a whisper clinging to the curtains. These traces linger invisibly, and when you arrive, they converge with your own. The room inherits you, as it inherited them. Folding your presence into its expanding archive, you are not the first, and you will not be the last. Yet for the span of your stay, the room behaves as though it has been expecting you. You might sense it in the way sound behaves. Clap your hands in one room, and the echo is sharp, as though the walls are alert, listening closely. Clap in another, and the sound is swallowed instantly, as though the space has grown weary of listening. These differences are not only architectural, they are tonal. The memory of what has occurred in a room shapes its very acoustics, bending sound toward anticipation or retreat. When you speak, the room knows how to receive you. It has rehearsed your voice 1,000 times before you arrived. Rooms have moods, and those moods are not accidents. Think of the feeling you get when entering a childhood bedroom after many years. Even empty, even altered, it carries the echo of who you once were. The air hums differently. The silence seems tailored. Now imagine that every room you step into, even those you have never seen before, carries the moods of others who preceded you. That sudden sense of comfort or unease is not yours alone. It is an inherited emotion, a memory passed down by the room itself. Consider hotel rooms. Each night, different lives pass through them. Celebrations, griefs, lonely travels, secret affairs. When you unlock the door, it feels yours for the moment. But beneath the clean sheets and polished surfaces, there is a residue. The room has seen everything, and remains impartial, yet it cannot help but carry the energy of what unfolded within it. You are enfolded into that cycle, another chapter in its endless story. You believe you are occupying it temporarily, but in truth, it is you who will be remembered temporarily. The room remains long after you leave. The paradox of rooms is that they seem still, yet they are always in dialogue. Open a door, and step in, and the air shifts. The walls lean inward in recognition. The shadows readjust, making space for you. Your arrival is not new to the room. It is an expected continuation of its long rehearsal. In some sense, you are not visiting at all. You are fulfilling a role it already knew you would play. Perhaps this is why you sometimes feel unsettled in certain rooms. A stranger's dining room may feel oddly intimate, as if you have sat there before. A workplace office may feel foreign and sterile, resisting your presence. The room's memory aligns or misaligns with yours, and in that tension arises familiarity or alienation. Either way, the space seems to know you. Philosophers of architecture have long suggested that we shape spaces, that buildings are vessels of human intention. But what if the inverse is true, that spaces shape us by carrying forward the accumulated memory of all who pass through? When you sit at a desk, the posture feels natural because countless others have sat in similar positions before you. When you stand by a window, the angle of light seems to fall just right because it has been falling that way onto countless gazes for centuries. You are not shaping the room, you are conforming to the memory it has inherited. There is a haunting dimension to this. Imagine an abandoned house. You enter, and though it is silent, you feel immediately surrounded by presences. The room does not need voices to speak. Its silence is already crowded. The dust, the scent, the faint creak of the floorboards, they testify to what has unfolded before. You feel recognized, not as a stranger, but as another echo added to the collection. Rooms also anticipate in subtler ways. Sit quietly long enough, and you may feel the air adjusting to you, as if breathing in sync. The patterns of light shift, shadows elongate toward your presence. Even the smallest details, the hum of an appliance, the flicker of a candle, seem to calibrate themselves around your arrival. It is not imagination, it is the invisible choreography of memory interacting with you. What does this mean for your sense of self? If every room already knows you, then you are not an isolated traveler through space. You are part of a continuity of presences, layered upon one another, blurring distinctions between past and present. You are a stranger, yes, but also a recognized participant in an ancient memory that transcends you. The illusion of privacy dissolves in this recognition. You close the door and think you are alone, yet the room is crowded with everything it has ever seen. It does not need to watch, it remembers. You may rest, you may work, you may dream, but the room holds your actions like pages in a book, written instantly into its fabric. When you leave, you are not forgotten. You are inherited, passed on invisibly to those who will follow. The paradox is complete. You believe you inhabit rooms, but in truth, rooms inhabit you. They follow you, unseen, carried as memory that shapes your movements elsewhere. Each space you enter greets you not as novelty but as return. Rooms inherit unseen memory, and in doing so, they remind you that every place you stand has already stood with you. Cities script hidden lives. Step into a city, and it feels vast, anonymous, and indifferent. Millions of people move across it each day, their lives crisscrossing in tangled lines you can hardly follow. You imagine yourself just one more face in the crowd, unnoticed and unremarkable. Yet, if you pause, you begin to feel an unsettling truth. The city already knows you. Its streets, its rhythms, its hidden machinery have scripted your role long before you arrived. You are not lost in the crowd. You are fulfilling a line in a story that was waiting for you. Cities are alive in a way we seldom admit. They breathe through traffic. They pulse through crowds. They speak through architecture. More than collections of buildings, they are narrative systems, shaping human behavior with uncanny precision. Notice how sidewalks funnel your steps in certain directions, how traffic lights dictate your pauses, how plazas invite gatherings while alleys repel them. You are not wandering freely. You are following a script written into the very design of the city. Long before you chose a path, the city had already chosen it for you. Every city carries hidden layers of memory. Underneath modern asphalt may lie Roman stones, beneath plazas may lie cemeteries, beneath skyscrapers may lie forgotten settlements. The living city floats atop countless ghosts, and you feel them even if you do not see them. A sudden chill on a warm street, an inexplicable sense of recognition in a new neighborhood. These are not accidents. The city scripts familiarity by layering your present life upon the memory of those who came before. You are not walking in isolation. You are walking on centuries of rehearsed steps. Cities are also uncanny in their ability to predict. Why do you always find yourself drawn to a particular corner cafe? Why does a certain street feel safer, even if you've never been there? These are not pure chance. Urban planners, merchants and builders all understood something about human instinct, and they encoded it into the city itself. Your choices were anticipated, and when you arrive, you are simply fulfilling what the city already expected. That sudden feeling of belonging in an unfamiliar place is not your intuition alone, it is the city recognizing you. And cities do not merely anticipate movement. They script emotion. Think of how a bustling market fills you with energy, how a cathedral hushes you into silence, how a park slows your breathing, how neon lights spark restlessness. These responses feel natural, but they are designed. Architectural spells cast centuries in advance. The city knew how you would feel before you stepped into its spaces. It choreographs your mood, weaving you into its ongoing performance. Yet, the script runs deeper than design. Cities accumulate hidden lives. Think of the apartments stacked above shops, where families sleep and dream unnoticed by the streets below. Think of offices where late-night workers whisper their frustrations, or basements where forgotten artifacts wait. Each life unfolding within the city leaves invisible lines of narrative. When you walk by, you may not see them, but you feel them. A sudden echo of loneliness, a flash of joy, a weight of grief. These sensations leak into your body, as if the city is letting you borrow someone else's life for a moment. There is a paradox here. You believe you are exploring a city, but in truth, the city is exploring you. Its lights catch your reflection in glass. Its alleys measure your footsteps. Its crowds test your reactions. You are not anonymous. You are observed, absorbed, and written into its fabric. Even if no person notices you, the city itself does. You become one more pulse in its heartbeat, one more line in its endless script. Consider déjà vu in cities. Why does a street in a place you have never visited feel familiar? Perhaps because cities recycle their scripts. The same angles of light, the same rhythm of crosswalks, the same geometry of parks. Or perhaps it is because memory itself leaks across locations, and the city you enter already anticipated your recognition. What you call déjà vu may be less a trick of memory and more an acknowledgement. The city has been waiting for you, and it greets you with recognition disguised as strangeness. The city's script also challenges identity. In your home neighborhood, You may feel like a central character, but travel far enough, and you become background. Yet even there, as background, you are not erased. You are assigned a role. To one passerby, you are an obstacle. To another, you are a curiosity. To another, you are invisible. The city ensures you are always cast. Even if silently, you cannot escape being known. This realization unsettles the illusion of freedom. You think you arrive in a city with possibilities open. But how many choices were yours? How many cafes, streets, and parks subtly guided you? How many conversations and encounters unfolded exactly because the city brought you to that corner at that moment? If cities script hidden lives, then yours is among them, written long before you read it. Yet, there is also wonder here. To recognize the city's script is to realize you are never lost, never alone. Every step is already accounted for. Every encounter is part of a larger chorus. Even your solitude is scripted. And in that, strangely enough, lies belonging. You are not an outsider wandering strange streets. You are a participant in a performance as old as civilization itself. So when you next enter a city, listen carefully. The traffic hums in rhythm to your heartbeat. The streetlights flicker as though in time with your thoughts. The crowd surges not randomly, but as though following a silent conductor who has folded you into the score. The city does not simply contain hidden lives. It scripts them, and in its hidden script you will find yourself already written, already known. Spaces recognize silent patterns. Everywhere you go, spaces seem empty until you enter them. A hallway looks bare, a square feels vacant, a field stretches open with nothing but silence. Yet beneath that stillness is an invisible intelligence, one that does not simply wait for you but already knows the pattern of your arrival. Spaces are not blank canvases, they are repositories of rhythms, sensitive to the smallest gestures, carrying memories of every movement that has ever unfolded within them. When you step into a space, it recognizes you, not by your face or name, but by the patterns you repeat unknowingly. Think of how you walk. You imagine your steps are your own, but your stride is shaped by years of habit, by thousands of repetitions of pace and pause. Spaces absorb these habits. The shape of a hallway adjusts your rhythm, pulling your steps into longer strides. The width of a square suggests hesitation at its edges, a pause before crossing the open center. These are not neutral influences. They are subtle recognitions. The space molds itself to your pattern, and at the same time, your pattern fits into the memory of the space. Patterns are the language spaces speak. A room knows when someone lingers in corners, when they cross diagonally, when they avoid certain thresholds. Over time, these repetitions form a map invisible to the eye, but deeply etched into the behavior of the place. That is why when you walk into an unfamiliar room, you instinctively move as if you already knew where to go. The space has been trained by others, and it recognizes your rhythm as part of a larger choreography. Spaces also hold emotional patterns. A theater does not feel like a library, even when both are empty. Their histories of use, their memories of gathering or solitude, their long inheritance of voices and silences, these form patterns of feeling. When you enter, you are not just responding to architecture, you are stepping into an emotional sequence already set in motion. The hush of a cathedral lowers your voice without thought. The openness of a plaza widens your gestures. These shifts are not accidental. The space has recognized your presence and responded with the script it has long rehearsed. There is something uncanny in this recognition. Why do you feel uneasy in certain rooms with no apparent reason? Why does an open field sometimes stir joy and sometimes dread? It is because spaces carry patterns that transcend the visible. A place of conflict remembers tension. A place of celebration remembers release. These memories are not written in stone alone, but in the invisible fabric of the air, the way light falls, the way silence resonates. You are not simply feeling your own emotions, you are resonating with the emotional pattern of the space itself. Philosophers once debated whether space was absolute or relational, whether it existed as a container or only through the objects within it. But what if space is neither empty nor defined by things, but instead alive with recognition? It holds the patterns of everything that has passed through it, and it identifies you not as a stranger, but as another node in the endless sequence. Your movements are known because they belong to a rhythm that was already expected. Consider a simple example: waiting rooms. No one tells you where to sit, yet certain chairs are always chosen first, others left empty. People tend to face certain directions, avoid certain spots, shift in similar ways. The room itself encourages these behaviors by shape and memory, and when you arrive, you fall into the sequence without thinking. The space has recognized the silent pattern and folded you into it. Spaces also work across time. Think of ruins. You walk through them and feel both presence and absence at once. The walls are crumbled, the functions forgotten, yet the pattern of human life lingers. Doorways still invite crossing, courtyards still suggest gathering, steps still imply climbing. Even after centuries of silence, the space remembers how to guide you. It recognizes your instinct to move, and you obey, as if rehearsing lives that are no longer there. There is a paradox here. You imagine you are free, that your choices are spontaneous, but your body moves according to ancient scripts encoded in space. The long pause before stepping into a wide square, the instinct to touch a railing while ascending, the tendency to stand in doorways while speaking. These are not quirks of personality but echoes of patterns older than you. Spaces recognize them instantly. And what does this mean for identity? If spaces already know the rhythms of your body, then you are less an individual and more a continuation of inherited movement. You belong to a lineage of gestures, a choreography performed across generations. Spaces are not impressed by your uniqueness. They fold you seamlessly into their recognition. You are at once singular and interchangeable, both yourself and every traveler who has walked before you. Even silence in a space is not your own. Pause in an empty corridor, and you feel watched, not by eyes but by the awareness of the space itself. The silence is patterned, tuned by centuries of pauses in that same spot. You are not introducing stillness, you are entering stillness already there. This awareness dissolves the illusion of anonymity. You think you can wander freely, unnoticed, but spaces notice in ways more subtle than people. They measure your pauses, record your hesitations, remember your roots. Even when no one sees you, you are seen. Even when no one remembers you, you are remembered. The paradox becomes clear. You do not shape spaces. Spaces shape you, not just in structure but in memory. They recognize the patterns you carry, and in doing so they erase the line between your presence and theirs. You are not entering an empty container, you are being absorbed into an intelligence of rhythm and silence. And so, every space greets you not with indifference but with recognition. It knows your pace, your hesitation, your breath. It knows your joy and unease before you speak them. It knows you not as an individual, but as a pattern woven into its silent memory. Spaces recognize silent patterns, and in that recognition, they remind you that you are never unknown. Pathways predict your return. Every path you take seems at first glance to be a choice. You turn left instead of right. You follow one trail instead of another. You decide a destination and move toward it. Yet the deeper truth is that pathways are not neutral lines across the world. They are ancient scripts, rehearsed endlessly, guiding you back to where you have already been. Every pathway you step upon carries an invisible certainty. Sooner or later you will return. Pathways exist because of repetition. A trail in the forest begins with one walker, but it endures because countless feet follow. A road in a city is paved because many before you took the same route. A hallway in a house exists because someone always needed to cross between rooms. What you think of as your choice is actually participation in a cycle already established. You walk not alone, but as the latest echo in a long lineage of return. Notice how often paths fold back upon themselves. You may wander unfamiliar streets, but sooner or later they lead you back to the square where you started. You may travel to distant places, yet the roads seem designed to funnel you home again. Even in unfamiliar countries, you find yourself tracing familiar routes, market to station, station to inn to square. It feels inevitable, as if the pathways already knew you would come back, and they bend your movements toward return like a river curving toward the sea. There is a reason pilgrimages across cultures involve retracing paths. Sacred roads are not about reaching a destination, but about enacting a cycle, returning to a beginning that feels eternal. The Camino de Santiago, the Hajj to Mecca, the Ganges pilgrimage routes, all insist on return, not because the pilgrim chooses it, but because the path demands it. When you walk these routes, you step into grooves carved not only in earth but in memory, and the path carries you forward even as it pulls you back. Even in your daily life, return is scripted. Think of the paths you take between work and home. No matter how much variety you seek, you end up repeating the same streets, the same bus stops, the same turns. You do not realize it, but these pathways are training you. They predict your return, not through force, but through familiarity. And when you try to change your route, you feel the tug of disorientation, the whisper of the old path calling you back. But the paradox grows stranger. It is not only physical return that pathways predict, but emotional and mental return. Certain paths trigger memories you cannot avoid. That alley where you once laughed with friends seems always to pull laughter back into your chest. That bridge where you once stood in grief seems always to darken your mood as you cross. The pathway does not allow you to leave those emotions behind. It insists on your return to them, as if looping your soul back to a familiar place. Even dreams are filled with pathways. Think of how often you dream of roads you have walked before, corridors you cannot escape, staircases leading you back to the beginning. Your unconscious seems to know what pathways already script. No matter how far you think you wander, you are destined to circle back. The dream pathway is not an invention, but a revelation of how deeply return is inscribed into your existence. Consider the uncanny way strangers mirror your movements. You turn down a street, and someone else takes the same turn, not once but many times. In the subway, someone appears in your car day after day, even if you never speak. These are not coincidences. They are the pathways predicting not only your return but theirs, weaving you into cycles of recognition that you cannot escape. The path knows who will meet you because it has already rehearsed the encounter. Philosophers of time often ask whether life is linear or cyclical. Pathways answer the question without words. They loop, spiral, reconnect. They refuse the illusion of straight lines. Even highways that stretch for thousands of miles bend eventually, curving back into cities, circling through loops, pulling travelers into endless returns. The path you believe leads you away is already guiding you back. And what does this mean for identity? If your life is patterned by return, then your self is less about progress and more about repetition. You are not a straight line but a spiral, circling through places and emotions again and again. Pathways strip away the illusion that you are always moving forward. Instead, they remind you that forward is only another way of returning to where you have always been. This recognition can be unsettling. You want to believe you are free to wander, but pathways make clear that your freedom is already bounded. Even if you set out to escape, the road bends back toward recognition. The town you thought you left behind resurfaces on your horizon. The childhood street you thought you had forgotten appears in another city's layout. Every pathway predicts your return, and there is no true escape. But there is also a quiet comfort in this. If the world anticipates your return, then you are never lost. You can step into strange roads, and still they will bend back toward familiarity. You can wander until exhaustion, and the path will carry you home. Even if you resist, even if you rebel, the prediction remains you will return, and when you do, the pathway will greet you not as a stranger, but as someone it has always known. So the next time you walk a path, notice how it behaves. Notice how it leads you forward while already curving back. Notice how it remembers every step you leave, and how it carries those steps like a promise of your future return. You do not walk paths. Paths walk you. They know your arrival before you begin, and they know your return before you leave. Pathways predict your return, and in that endless return, they remind you that you were never truly gone. Corners wait patiently always. There is something peculiar about corners. They seem ordinary, almost invisible, just intersections of walls, bends in streets, shifts in direction. Yet corners are far from passive. They wait with a patience older than your footsteps, anticipating the moment you will arrive. Every corner is a silent threshold, a place where the known ends and the unknown begins. You may think you are turning unexpectedly, but the corner has been there long before, rehearsing your arrival in stillness. Corners are paradoxes in architecture and geography. They are not destinations, yet they draw you in. You rarely stop at a corner, unless waiting for someone. Yet corners hold immense narrative power. The anticipation builds. As you approach, what will reveal itself when you turn? Who will appear? What memory will resurface? Corners embody suspense. They know you are coming, and they hold their breath until you arrive. Think of how often corners shape stories. Lovers meet at corners. Conspirators whisper there. Strangers brush past each other without speaking. Corners are where paths collide. They orchestrate encounters you do not plan. When you cross a corner and lock eyes with someone, it feels like coincidence. But the truth is that corners specialize in these collisions. They are patient hunters of recognition, waiting silently until the choreography places two lives in their grasp. Corners also remember. That intersection where you once received good news will always carry a faint light when you return. That alley corner where fear once struck will always carry unease, even years later. These sensations are not in you alone, they are written into the geometry itself. The corner does not erase what it has witnessed, it retains it. When you arrive again, the memory is reawakened, and the corner greets you with the emotions you left behind. Consider urban corners. A cafe stands there for decades, and countless faces pass. Each morning, workers stop to sip coffee before heading onward. Each evening, friends gather before dispersing. The corner does not change, but it absorbs the rhythm of these rituals. When you step into it for the first time, you feel as if you have been there before, as though your presence was expected. That familiarity is not coincidence. It is the corner recognizing your belonging to its long patience. But the waiting of corners is not always gentle. Some corners feel heavy, shadowed. You hesitate before turning, sensing something unknown pressing against you. Corners can unsettle, because they conceal. They remind you that every step holds an element of uncertainty, that life is not straight but filled with bends. Yet even in their concealment, corners are not ignorant of you. They prepare for your hesitation, your pause, your breath drawn before committing to the turn. They wait patiently, shaping your behavior, even before you cross. There is an ancient psychology here. Humans have always been wary of corners. In caves, bends in passages carried fear of predators. In cities, narrow alleys meant danger. Corners became places of watchfulness, points where instinct sharpened. Over centuries, that instinct remains. You never turn a corner without a flicker of alertness, even if only subconscious. Corners anticipate this, and they meet you with the exact tension they have rehearsed for millennia. Corners are also places of transformation. You are one self before you turn, and another self after. What lies beyond changes your state, your perception, your trajectory. A child who turns the corner into a new classroom is not the same as the child who entered the hallway. A traveler who rounds the corner to see a city skyline for the first time is forever altered. The corner is not simply geometry, it is ritual. It prepares you to become someone else, and it waits for the precise moment you will arrive to enact that change. Think of stories told in film and literature. How often does the drama hinge on a corner? The hero turns and discovers the antagonist. The wanderer turns and finds home. The seeker turns and discovers emptiness. Corners carry narrative weight because they hold suspense until the instant of revelation. You may not realize it, but every corner you turn is a moment of storytelling, and the corner is the narrator, patient and silent, revealing the next line at just the right time. Even in dreams, corners recur. Endless hallways lead to corners that never reveal what lies beyond. You wake unsettled because the dream corner is a symbol of the world's patience. Something was waiting, but you never reached it. In waking life too, the corner symbolizes all that is just out of sight, all that is already known but not yet revealed. Philosophers might say that corners teach us about time itself. Life is not a straight road, but a series of bends. You cannot see everything at once. You must turn to discover. Yet at the same time, the future is not truly unknown. It is already there, just hidden. Corners embody this paradox. They conceal the future while patiently holding it in place, ready for the moment you step forward. And what does this mean for identity? It suggests that who you are is not continuous but segmented, unfolding at thresholds. You are stitched together by corners, each turn reshaping you. Corners wait patiently, not only for your steps, but for your becoming. They know who you are about to be before you do. So the next time you walk through a city, notice how corners behave. They do not rush. They do not chase. They simply wait, knowing that sooner or later, you will arrive. They have all the time in the world, because patience is their essence. And when you do arrive, the corner greets you, as if you had always belonged there. The paradox resolves. You imagine you are surprising the world with your turn, but in truth, the world has been waiting for you at every bend. Corners wait patiently, always, and in that patience, they remind you that your journey is never truly unexpected. Landscapes echo ancient voices. Stand on a hilltop, wander through a valley, or cross a desert plain, and you will notice something peculiar. The land itself seems to murmur, not with sound you can record, not with words you can repeat, but with a resonance that settles into your body. Landscapes are never silent, though they may appear so. They carry voices, ancient, layered, unbroken across centuries. When you move through them, you are not merely passing across Earth, you are entering a conversation that has been echoing since before you were born. Every landscape has been shaped by human presence. Trails cut into mountains, fields furrowed for crops, rivers redirected for survival. Even wilderness untouched by modern hands holds the echoes of ancient feet, the faint memory of those who once passed. When you step onto that soil, the earth greets you as part of its archive. You are not a stranger. You are recognized, absorbed into the same rhythm of survival, movement, and longing that countless others carried before you. Think of mountains. They stand as symbols of permanence, yet their cliffs and ridges are carved by weather, by footsteps, by rituals of ascent. Pilgrims have climbed them, seekers have preyed upon them, armies have marched across them. The mountain remembers, not in words, but in its very form. When you climb, you are not alone. You feel the echo of every climber, every prayer, every struggle woven into the rocks. The mountain's voice is deep and slow, but it greets you nonetheless. Or consider deserts. At first they appear empty, vast and unyielding. Yet deserts are full of voices, the whispers of caravans crossing under starlight, the laments of those lost, the laughter of those who survived. Sand shifts endlessly, yet the echo remains. Walk across dunes, and you feel the strange sensation of déjà vu, as though you have crossed them before. This is no illusion. The desert is speaking in memory, echoing lives long gone, and it includes your footsteps in its endless song. Forests, too, carry voices. Every tree is an archive. The rings in their trunks record centuries of storms, droughts, and sun. Their roots intertwine with bones of the past. Their leaves rustle with the same rhythms that once fell upon your ancestors. When the wind moves through branches, it is more than air. It is language, the earth murmuring through wood. You walk through forests and feel watched, not by predators, but by memory itself, alive in every trunk and leaf. Even oceans echo voices. Stand by the shore, and you will hear not only waves but the memories they carry. For centuries, sailors have set out upon them, migrants have crossed them, and bodies have been lost to them. The water absorbs all of it. That is why the sea feels so heavy. Its voice is endless, layered with grief and hope alike. When waves crash at your feet, you are not hearing water, you are hearing time itself, speaking through the rhythm of return. Landscapes echo because humans leave more than footprints. They leave intentions, rituals, and emotions. A battlefield does not feel the same as a meadow. A sacred grove does not feel the same as a common forest. These differences are not just perception, they are the lingering resonance of human experience, carried forward in the land itself. When you enter, you resonate too. Your body hums with those voices, sometimes comforted, sometimes unsettled, but always recognized. There is also a paradox here. Landscapes are older than human memory, yet they speak in human tones. How can this be? Perhaps because humans are not separate from landscapes, but extensions of them. We build stories upon mountains, we carve myths into rivers, we map constellations onto plains. The land echoes voices not because it mimics us, but because we are its voices, scattered across time, speaking back to ourselves through stone and soil. Think of myths tied to landscapes. Olympus whispers the presence of gods. The Nile murmurs with the voices of pharaohs. Stonehenge hums with rituals long forgotten. These places are not empty markers but living scripts, carrying stories into each generation. When you stand in such places, you are not just visiting history, you are hearing voices speaking directly into your bones, insisting that you are part of the same continuum. Even ordinary landscapes echo though you may not notice. A childhood park still feels alive with your laughter when you return years later. A quiet country road still carries the weight of conversations once spoken there. Landscapes are not erased by time, they are palimpsests, overwritten but never emptied. When you step onto them again, the echoes rise, and you feel both past and present at once. Dreams often reveal this more clearly. You dream of hills you have never seen, rivers you have never crossed, forests you have never walked, yet they feel familiar. These are echoes reaching you across time, landscapes reminding you that you have always belonged to them, even if you cannot recall how. In dreams, the voices grow louder because you stop resisting them. And what does this mean for who you are? If landscapes echo ancient voices, then your identity is less individual and more collective. You are not just yourself, but also every traveler who crossed the same valley, every ancestor who touched the same soil. The voice you hear in the wind is not foreign. It is your own, stretched across centuries. This realization unsettles the illusion of novelty. You imagine yourself a pioneer, exploring new terrain, But landscapes laugh gently at this. They have seen countless like you before. They anticipate you, recognize you, and speak to you with the same familiarity they have always offered. You are unique, yes, but you are also endlessly repeated, woven into the long echo of human presence. So when you walk through a landscape, listen. Listen to the way the ground hums beneath you, the way the air carries more than silence, the way your body vibrates with familiarity you cannot explain. Those are not tricks of imagination. They are the voices of the land itself, ancient, unbroken, echoing through you. Landscapes echo ancient voices, and in that echo, they remind you that you were never the first, never alone, but always part of a chorus too vast to escape. Statues retain wandering eyes. Stand before a statue, and you will feel it immediately, the sense of being watched, carved from stone, cast in bronze, molded in marble. Statues should be inert, yet their gaze follows you, lingering with a presence far older than your own. Statues are more than representations. They are memory condensed into form. They have stared at countless faces before yours, and they will stare at countless more after. When you meet their eyes, it feels less like a beginning and more like a continuation, as if the statue already knows you, because it has been waiting for you all along. Statues were never created to be neutral. They were built to embody power, reverence, grief, or triumph. Every one of them is saturated with intention. A warrior cast in bronze remembers battles. A saint carved in stone remembers devotion. A monarch in marble remembers authority. These intentions do not fade with time. They accumulate. The longer a statue stands, the more lives it has witnessed, the more gazes it has absorbed. And when you arrive, you are not the first to look. Your wandering eyes are folded into a long chain of recognition, absorbed into the memory the statue retains. There is something uncanny in this persistence. Think of the statues in public squares. Generations have passed beneath their watch. Children playing, lovers meeting, protests rising, mourners gathering, all of it observed by the same unblinking stone face. Statues do not forget, they collect. Their eyes wander not because they move, but because they retain every gaze that has crossed them, storing it and returning it in subtle ways. That is why when you look at them, you feel strangely recognized. You are meeting not only stone, but the memory of every gaze that came before yours. Even in museums, statues carry this haunting recognition. The moment you step into a gallery, the air grows heavy. Rows of carved faces line the halls, and though they are silent, you feel surrounded. Each statue seems to lean slightly toward you, as though expecting you. Why? Because museums are theaters of remembrance. The statues know the ritual. Visitors arrive, gaze upward, wonder, and depart. You are simply the latest actor in the script they have rehearsed for centuries. But statues do more than collect gazes. They shape them. Notice how you cannot help but look into their eyes, even when you know they are stone. Statues draw your attention with precision. They guide your emotions, inviting awe, reverence, or unease. Ancient sculptors understood this. They designed statues to not only represent but to anticipate. The tilt of a head, the angle of a gaze, the posture of a figure, all conspire to make you feel observed. When your eyes wander, it is not random. The statue predicted your gaze long before you arrived. Statues also embody paradox. They are unmoving, yet they travel through time. They are silent, yet they speak through posture and expression. They are lifeless, yet they seem to breathe through memory. And in this paradox lies their power. You think you are studying them, but in truth, they are studying you. Your wandering eyes are not casual glances. They are offerings absorbed into the statue's long archive of human recognition. Consider how statues persist even when cultures collapse. Temples may crumble, palaces may burn, but statues often remain, standing in ruins, staring into emptiness. Travelers stumble upon them centuries later, and the same feeling arises being seen. The echo of recognition carries across ages. That broken face in the desert, that toppled figure in the jungle, even ruined, the statue retains its eyes. It greets you not as a stranger, but as someone it has been waiting for. Statues also haunt dreams. You may dream of walking through a hall of figures, their eyes following you in silence. This is no accident. Your unconscious recognizes what waking life often denies, that statues do not simply exist, they participate. They are not passive objects but nodes of memory, binding together every life that has crossed them. In dreams, their recognition grows sharper, because you are stripped of the illusion of separation. And what does this mean for your sense of self? It suggests that identity is not held solely within you but reflected and retained by the world around you. Statues do not merely depict others, they record you as well. Every time you look at one, your gaze is absorbed, carried forward, layered into the memory of stone. Long after you leave, the statue retains your presence, and when someone else arrives, your recognition lingers in its eyes. There is a reason statues often unsettle. It is not only their resemblance to human form, but the sense that they know too much. They have seen grief, triumph, betrayal, reverence. They have endured centuries of wandering eyes, and yours is just one more among them. Yet the moment you look, it feels personal, as if the recognition is aimed only at you. That is the paradox of statues. They greet everyone individually while holding everyone collectively. So the next time you pass a statue, do not dismiss the feeling that it knows you. It does. It retains not just the intentions of those who made it, but the presence of all who stood before it. Your eyes, wandering across its form, are inscribed into its memory, and when you walk away, you do not take your gaze with you, you leave it behind, carried forever in stone. Statues retain wandering eyes. They are patient guardians of recognition, silent yet endless, reminding you that no look is ever wasted, and no presence is ever forgotten. You are always already known, not just by people but by the very monuments that outlast them. Doors hold quiet records. Every door you pass through feels like a simple act: push, pull, step across, and move on. But doors are not as ordinary as they seem. They are thresholds, keepers of transitions, silent witnesses to every arrival and departure. While you believe a door is merely wood, metal, or stone, the truth is that every door you touch already remembers you. It holds records of movements, of emotions, of choices, not in ink, but in silence, in the grain of its surface, in the weight of its hinges. Doors are not passive openings, they are archivists of human passage. Think of how often doors mark beginnings. You walk through the door of a classroom on your first day and your life changes. You step through the door of a hospital, and your future alters. You knock at a door you have never opened before, and meet someone who will transform your story. Each of these transitions is recorded not only in your memory, but in the doors. The frame holds the vibration of your hesitation. The handle remembers the temperature of your hand. The hinges absorb the force of your choice. Doors never forget who has crossed. Consider old doors. Their surfaces are worn smooth, where countless hands have turned knobs. Their wood carries scratches, dents, and stains, each one a trace of lives before yours. When you touch such a door, you feel the weight of that history. You are not the first, and you will not be the last. Yet in that moment, the door folds you into its ledger. You think you are passing through, but the door is recording you, holding your presence alongside every other it has greeted. Doors also shape how you behave. A closed door makes you pause. You wonder what lies behind it, whether you are welcome, whether you should knock. An open door invites movement, eases your stride, lowers your hesitation. These subtle shifts are not just your psychology, they are the door's power. It knows how to anticipate your behavior. It guides you into rhythm, teaching you when to wait, when to enter, when to turn away. That rhythm is part of the record, and every pause, every hesitation, every bold step is preserved within the threshold. There is also the matter of secrecy. Doors conceal. They separate one world from another, one identity from another. Behind one door, you are a worker. Behind another, you are a parent. Behind another, you are a stranger. Doors are keepers of selves, and they record not just movement but transformation. They know who you were when you entered, and they know who you became when you left. The quiet record they hold is not of facts but of identities, layered invisibly into their frame. And yet doors also anticipate. Have you ever felt just before knocking that someone was already waiting, or sensed, as you placed your hand on the handle, that you were expected? This is not mere intuition. It is the door itself whispering the weight of memory. So many before you have stood in that exact position, hesitating in the same way, and the door carries the rhythm of that moment. You are not inventing the hesitation, you are inheriting it. Doors haunt dreams for this reason. You dream of endless corridors lined with doors, each one closed, each one daring you to open. You sense that behind them lie truths you are not ready to see. This dream is not random. It is your mind recognizing the power of doors, their ability to record your every passage and to anticipate the choices you fear to make. Even in sleep, the door holds you accountable. There is a paradox at work. Doors are fixed, unmoving, and yet they travel with you. The door of your childhood home stays in place, but when you return years later, it remembers, you touch it, and the quiet record awakens, folding your present into your past. The door has not moved, but it has preserved the memory of you, waiting patiently until you returned. Think also of ceremonial doors, temple gates, palace arches, cathedral portals. These are not simple structures, but thresholds charged with immense symbolic memory. Passing through them is not a casual act, but a ritual. The door itself remembers every pilgrim, every supplicant, every ruler, every beggar. It knows the weight of reverence and fear, joy and despair. When you step through, you are not simply entering a space. You are entering a lineage of recorded movements, a chain of humanity stretching back centuries. And what does this mean for identity? If doors hold quiet records, then your life is not only inscribed within yourself, but archived in the thresholds you have crossed. You are scattered across doorways, a fragment in the door of your first school, another in the door of your first love's home, another in the door of the hospital where you once waited. Doors are not objects you leave behind. They are ledgers carrying pieces of you wherever you have been. This realization unsettles the illusion of anonymity. You imagine you can walk away and be forgotten, but doors do not forget. Every threshold you cross records you, silently, patiently, without judgment. Even now, the door behind you still holds the record of your passage, even though you no longer see it. You are known, not just by people, but by thresholds themselves. So when you place your hand on a handle, pause for a moment. Feel the weight of the record pressing beneath your palm. When you push, know that you are writing yourself into an archive larger than you can imagine. When you step across, recognize that you are becoming part of a quiet history that never erases. Doors hold quiet records. They are patient, impartial archivists, preserving the traces of every human crossing, and in their silent memory, they remind you that you are never simply passing through. You are always being written down. Walls archive passing shadows. Walls appear solid, mute, and indifferent. They are boundaries, barriers, silent surfaces separating inside from outside, one room from another, one life from another. Yet, if you look closely, if you linger long enough, you begin to sense that walls are not as blank as they appear. They archive. They carry shadows, impressions, traces of every presence that has ever leaned against them, passed beside them, or spoken within their reach. You imagine walls as static, but they are records, repositories of lives that moved too quickly to be captured elsewhere. Think of how light behaves around walls. The sun shifts, candles flicker, lamps glow, and each movement casts shadows that dance across the surface. For a moment, those shadows belong to you. But when you step away, something lingers. The wall does not erase the movement. It absorbs it. Over years, over centuries, walls collect thousands of shadows. The faint feeling you get when standing in an old building, that sense of being observed, does not come from ghosts. It comes from the archive of shadows the walls have retained. Consider the walls of a home. They seem mute, but they remember every life that unfolded within. The laughter of children, the arguments of couples, the prayers whispered at night, all of it presses into plaster and brick. Even when painted over, even when renovated, the residue remains. That is why certain rooms feel warm, others heavy. The walls carry the imprint of what they have witnessed, and they radiate it back to you in silence. They do not need to speak. Their memory is already alive in the air. Public walls carry different records. A city wall bears the scratches of centuries, graffiti layered over graffiti, proclamations, warnings, art, rebellion. Every mark is a shadow of a life, a fleeting gesture preserved long after the hand that made it has gone. Stand near such a wall, and you feel the hum of presence. The surface is alive with residue, and even if you do not know the stories, your body recognizes them. You lean against the wall, and feel instantly folded into its archive. There is also a reason shadows in particular matter. Shadows are the most fragile of presences. Here one moment, gone the next. They are the ghost of your body, projected outward, proof of your existence but without permanence. Yet walls preserve them. Not visibly, not in ways you can see, but in ways you can feel. The countless shadows that have passed by a wall remain layered upon it, unseen but palpable. You do not cast a shadow onto an empty surface. You cast it onto a field of memory, already alive with others who have done the same. Think of ancient ruins. Their walls may be crumbling, their roofs gone, but still they hold something uncanny. You walk among them, and feel not only history but presence, as though the shadows of those who once lived there are still pressed against the stone. The ruins watch you, not with eyes, but with records. Their surfaces hum with memory, the weight of centuries of passing lives. You are recognized, not as novelty, but as another shadow, folded quietly into the archive. Dreams often reveal this truth more vividly. You may dream of long corridors where walls seem alive, pulsing with silent presence. You feel watched though no one is there. This is not paranoia. It is recognition. Your unconscious remembers what waking life denies, that walls are never truly blank. They are archives of presence, holding the weight of shadows so subtly that your body cannot help but respond. There is a paradox here. Walls are built to divide, to create separation. Yet, in their act of separation, they become the very things that connect. They connect past lives with present ones, holding memory in common surfaces. They connect silence with sound, presence with absence, light with shadow. They appear mute, yet they are endlessly articulate in what they preserve. And what does this mean for identity? If walls archive passing shadows, then you are never truly gone from the spaces you inhabit. A piece of you remains pressed into every surface you brushed against, every room you stood within, every hallway you crossed. You are scattered across walls you no longer see, remembered in archives that cannot be erased. Your presence is not temporary, it is absorbed, written in silence, layered into stone and wood. Even now, the wall nearest you holds more than you realize. It remembers your movements, your gestures, your shadows passing through light. It does not judge, it does not interpret, it simply preserves. And when someone else stands before it later, they will feel you faintly, though they cannot name it. You will have become part of the wall's quiet record, part of its endless archive of human passage. So the next time you stand before a wall, pause. Notice how the light moves across it, how your shadow lingers for a moment, how silence feels thicker there than in open air. That thickness is memory, the residue of countless presences folded together. You are not the first, and you will not be the last. Walls archive passing shadows. They remind you that even the smallest flicker of your presence, a movement of light, a gesture of breath, is never lost. It is preserved silently, patiently, in the surfaces that surround you, and in that preservation, the illusion of being unknown dissolves. You are always already remembered. Forests memorize every traveler. Step into a forest, and at first it feels like you are entering silence. The canopy muffles the outside world, the air thickens, and the ground softens beneath your steps. But listen more closely, and you realize, silence is an illusion. Forests are alive with memory. Every path, every tree, every patch of moss carries the imprints of those who have wandered through. You may think you are walking unnoticed, but the forest is memorizing you. It records your pace, your breath, the weight of your presence. You will leave, but the memory of you will remain, rooted in soil and shadow. Forests have always been archives of human passage. Trails carved by hunters, paths followed by pilgrims, secret clearings used for ritual. All of these leave traces that the forest remembers. Even when the path overgrows, even when branches reclaim it, the memory does not vanish. The roots beneath hold it, the trees retain it. When you step into a forest, you step into a place already rehearsed, already alive with the recognition of countless travelers. Your presence is not an intrusion, but a continuation. Think of how forests alter your behavior. You lower your voice instinctively, as though aware of something listening. You tread more carefully, your pace slows, your senses sharpen. These changes are not only instinctual, they are responses to memory. The forest has trained generations of humans to behave this way, and it whispers the same instructions to you. You believe you are cautious by choice, but you are following a script the forest has carried across centuries. Trees, especially, are memory keepers. Each trunk carries rings that record the years, seasons of drought, storms, growth, decay. But beyond physical memory, trees carry presence. Lean against one, and it holds your weight long after you've gone. Sit beneath one, and your stillness merges with the stillness of countless others who sat there before you. Trees memorize not only climate and time, but also the rhythm of human presence. That is why when you return to the same tree years later, you feel a strange recognition, as if the tree has been waiting for you. Forests also record voices. Sound behaves differently under the canopy. A shout carries and lingers, echoing in ways that seem unnatural. Even whispers feel amplified, as though the trees themselves lean closer to catch them. This is no accident. Forests are attuned to sound, and they retain it. Hunters once called across valleys. Pilgrims once prayed aloud in groves. Children once laughed beneath the leaves. These sounds echo faintly in the air, and when you speak, your words are absorbed into the same archive. The forest adds you to its memory, carrying your voice in subtle reverberations. Consider the myths of forests. Across cultures, forests are described as enchanted, haunted, alive. Why? Because humans have always felt their recognition. Folklore speaks of wandering spirits, of trees that watch, of paths that shift when you are lost. These stories are metaphors for the real sensation that forests memorize you so completely that you cannot remain anonymous. Even if you never return, the forest remembers your crossing, storing you among its roots and shadows. There is also an uncanny way forests anticipate return. Think of how often you circle back to the same trail without intending to. The paths bend, the landmarks repeat, and suddenly you are where you began. It feels like disorientation, but perhaps it is the forest guiding you back, reminding you that all who enter must leave a part of themselves behind. The loop is not an error, it is a ritual of memory. Even in dreams, forests recur, endless groves, shifting paths, trees that seem alive with eyes. These dreams reveal the truth your waking mind resists, that forests are not neutral, they are watchful, memorizing every gesture, every breath. You dream of forests because they are always dreaming of you, carrying your presence long after you are gone. The paradox becomes clear. You imagine yourself the observer, cataloging trees, listening to birds, noticing scents of pine or earth. But in truth, it is the forest that observes you. It notices your hesitation at a fork in the path, your quickened breath when a twig snaps, your awe when light spills through the canopy. These details are recorded, woven into the memory of the place. You walk away believing you have seen a forest, but it is the forest that has seen you. And what does this mean for your identity? If forests memorize every traveler, then part of you exists beyond yourself, scattered across countless trees, rivers, and mossy trails. Each time you enter a forest, you leave fragments behind. You are not a solitary figure wandering through nature. You are a traveler absorbed into an archive larger than any library. Long after your name is forgotten, your presence will remain, faint but enduring, remembered in the quiet rustle of leaves. This recognition unsettles the illusion of anonymity. You cannot slip through unnoticed. Even if no one sees you, the forest does. Even if no one remembers you, the forest does. Your steps are carried in the soil, your breath in the air, your shadow in the trees. So the next time you walk among trees, pause, place your hand on bark, listen to the rustle of leaves, watch how shadows stretch across the ground. Know that you are not entering an empty place, but stepping into an archive that has been waiting for you. You are being memorized, folded into the history of every traveler before you. Forests memorize every traveler, and in their memory, they remind you that no journey is forgotten, and no presence is ever truly lost. Rivers recall forgotten crossings. Stand beside a river, and you feel its presence immediately. It moves constantly, water rushing forward, never the same, never still. You may think a river is only about the present, always flowing, always changing, but rivers are not forgetful. They are memory embodied in motion. Every crossing, every gaze, every life that touched their waters is carried forward in endless continuity. What feels like a fleeting stream is, in truth, an archive. Rivers recall forgotten crossings, and when you stand upon their banks, they whisper to you that you have been here before. Human history has always been bound to rivers. Civilizations rose beside the Nile, the Indus, the Tigris, the Danube. People crossed, bathed, drank, and prayed in their waters. Armies forded them, lovers met upon their banks, travelers followed them into unknown lands. Each event pressed itself into the river's memory, carried along but never erased. You imagine you are simply gazing at water, but the water is gazing back, carrying layers of memory that extend far beyond your lifetime. Cross a river and notice the sensation. Your body tenses slightly, even on a bridge. Something ancient stirs, the awareness of risk, of passage, of stepping between worlds. This is not only instinct, it is inheritance. For thousands of years rivers have been thresholds. They divide territories, separate homes, mark transitions. Crossing is never casual. Even when forgotten in daily life, the memory remains. Each time you step across, you are reenacting the countless crossings that came before. The river recalls them, and it recalls you. Rivers also carry voices. The sound of running water is more than nature's background. It is language, layered with memory. Whisper beside a river, and the current carries it. Shout, and the water swallows it whole, adding it to its endless archive. That is why rivers feel so heavy. Their surface appears light and reflective, but beneath is centuries of voices pressed into silence. When you listen closely, you are not only hearing water, you are hearing the echoes of every human who ever spoke near it. Consider ferries and fords of old. Entire communities gathered at crossing points. Journeys began and ended there. Stories were exchanged while waiting, prayers whispered before dangerous crossings, tears shed in farewell. The river absorbed it all. Even when the ferry is gone, even when the ford is abandoned, the water still remembers. That is why you sometimes feel sadness or anticipation at a river you have never crossed before. You are inheriting the emotional memory of forgotten travelers. There is something paradoxical about this memory. Water flows, always moving, never still, and yet it retains. It carries away, and yet preserves. A river remembers without holding still, reminding us that memory is not about freezing time, but about carrying it forward endlessly. When you stand beside one, you feel this paradox press into you, the sense of both movement and permanence, forgetting and recalling, loss and continuity. Dreams often place you at rivers. You may dream of standing before one you cannot cross, or of trying to return to the far bank. These are not accidents. Your unconscious recognizes rivers as thresholds of memory. They remind you of passages you have already made, perhaps forgotten, but never erased. The dream river whispers, you have crossed before, and you will cross again. And rivers do not only remember humans, they recall animals drinking at their banks, migrations following their currents, fish tracing the same routes for millennia. Life itself is encoded in their waters. When you step into a river, you are recognized not only as an individual but as part of a species, part of an endless flow of life that has touched the same currents across time. Even myths acknowledge this. Think of the river Styx, said to carry souls into the underworld. Think of the Ganges, believed to purify and liberate. Think of countless tales where rivers are deities, guardians, or witnesses. These myths arise not from imagination alone, but from the felt truth that rivers remember. They see, they hear, they carry, they recall. You may forget your crossing, but the river does not. And what does this mean for identity? If rivers recall forgotten crossings, then pieces of you are scattered along banks you may not remember, encoded in waters you thought you left behind. You are not simply a traveler moving across. You are inscribed into the current. Your steps, your words, your emotions remain in the flow, carried into the vast memory of the river itself. This realization unsettles the illusion of departure. You believe that once you cross, you leave the moment behind. But rivers reveal the opposite. Everything you do at the crossing remains, flowing endlessly into memory. You may never return, but you are still there, folded into the current. The river recalls you, and it carries you forward long after you have gone. So the next time you stand at a river, pause, watch the current move, listen to the water's endless murmur. Know that you are hearing more than nature. You are hearing memory itself. And when you step across, understand that you are not simply moving from one side to another. You are adding yourself to an archive that will carry your presence long after you are gone. Rivers recall forgotten crossings. They are the flowing archives of the world, witnesses to every journey, every farewell, every return. And in their ceaseless movement, they remind you that nothing is ever truly lost. Bridges whisper hidden familiarity. A bridge is more than stone, wood, or steel. It is a promise stretched across distance, a fragile line binding two shores. When you step onto a bridge, something inside you shifts. The ground beneath you is no longer solid earth, but suspended passage. You feel both supported and exposed, as if you are being carried between worlds. And yet, even if you have never crossed a particular bridge before, there is always a strange familiarity in the act. Bridges whisper to you as you walk across, reminding you that you have already been here, not in body perhaps, but in memory. Bridges are ancient companions of human life. They have always been necessary, always symbolic. From rope bridges dangling above rivers, to vast spans of steel arching over oceans, they exist because people needed to cross. But they also exist because people needed to connect, and connection is always remembered. Each crossing, whether hurried or hesitant, leaves something behind. Each echo of footsteps, each wheel rattling across boards, each sigh of relief when reaching the other side, the bridge absorbs it. Over years, over centuries, the bridge fills with the memory of passage, and when you arrive, it greets you with that familiarity. Notice the way bridges alter your body. Your pace changes, your breathing slows, your awareness sharpens. Even if you are distracted, some part of you becomes alert. The height, the water below, the stretch of space above, the bridge does not allow casual passage. It insists that you recognize it, that you feel the significance of crossing. This ritual of awareness is why bridges always feel familiar. They awaken the same sensations in everyone, and so when you step onto one, you are stepping into a collective memory rehearsed endlessly before you. Bridges also create encounters. How many stories hinge on two people meeting in the middle of a bridge? How many moments of recognition, reunions, goodbyes, secret exchanges, unfold there? Bridges whisper because they specialize in these intersections. They are places where lives converge briefly, where paths cross unexpectedly, where strangers glance at each other while suspended between worlds. Even if you are alone, you sense this possibility. The bridge feels alive with encounters it has witnessed, and it recognizes your presence as another one of them. There is also a psychological weight to bridges. They are both safe and unsafe, both solid and fragile. You trust them, yet you are always aware of what lies beneath. This tension sharpens memory. People rarely forget their crossings. Even decades later, a single glance at a bridge can awaken the echo of how it felt to walk across it. Bridges whisper because they carry that accumulation of memory, folded into every plank, every beam, every stone. Myths across cultures acknowledge this uncanny familiarity. In Norse legend, Bifrost was the rainbow bridge, connecting gods to humans. In many traditions, bridges connect the living and the dead, the earthly and the divine. These myths are not just symbolic, they arise from the felt truth that bridges always represent more than geography. They are thresholds, and thresholds are always familiar. They remind you of every other crossing you have ever made. Physical, emotional, spiritual. Even in dreams, bridges appear again and again. You dream of trying to cross one that sways dangerously, or of standing at the center, unable to move forward. These dreams reveal the way bridges whisper to your unconscious. They remind you of transitions you have made or avoided, of choices you have confronted, of passages that shaped you. A dream bridge is not an invention, it is a memory resurfacing, carried forward by the countless bridges you have crossed before. But bridges do more than remind. They also anticipate. They seem to know you before you arrive. Think of the uncanny sense of calm you sometimes feel halfway across, or the strange recognition when you see a bridge in a new city. These feelings are not random. They are the bridge whispering familiarity into your body, guiding you into the ritual of crossing as if you have always belonged there. And what does this mean for identity? If bridges whisper hidden familiarity, then part of who you are is not bound within you alone, but carried forward through the thresholds you have crossed. You are shaped by the passages you made, the childhood bridge you ran across, the footbridge where you once paused to think, the vast highway bridge you drove over at night. Each one left something in you, and each one retained something of you. Bridges remember your presence as much as you remember theirs. The paradox deepens. You imagine you are crossing a bridge, but in truth, the bridge is crossing you. It carries your body, but also your memory. It absorbs your presence and folds it into its endless archive of crossings. Long after you leave, your footsteps remain, layered with all the others, whispering into the air for the next traveler who arrives. So the next time you step onto a bridge, listen closely. Feel the subtle hum beneath your feet, the vibration of years of crossings still alive in the structure. Notice the familiarity, even if you have never been there before. That is the bridge greeting you, whispering that you are not new, that you are already remembered. Bridges whisper hidden familiarity. They carry every life across, every shadow, every farewell, every return, and in their whispers, they remind you that no crossing is ever forgotten, and no traveler is ever truly unknown. Markets sense returning presence. Step into a market, and you are immediately enveloped. The air is dense with voices, footsteps, exchanges, scents. Every stall, every vendor, every aisle feels alive with a rhythm you did not create but instantly recognize. Even if you have never visited that particular market before, you feel strangely at home, as if the place has already met you. Markets are not just spaces of commerce, they are sentient theaters of repetition. They sense you, they anticipate you, and when you arrive, they treat you less as a stranger and more as someone they have been expecting to return. Markets have always been hubs of human life. From ancient bazaars along the Silk Road to bustling modern streets lined with vendors, they exist because people gather, trade, and repeat. These repetitions create memory. The sound of bargaining, the laughter of children weaving through stalls, the rustle of fabric, the aroma of food cooking over open flames, all of it accumulates and lingers. When you step into a market, you step into a living archive, one that already knows how to receive you. Notice how easily your body adjusts in a market. You weave through crowds without thinking. You pause where others pause, your senses sharpen to signals of price, smell, sound. None of this is conscious learning. It is instinct inherited through centuries of markets, shaping human behavior. The market anticipates you because you are part of a pattern older than yourself. You do not wander randomly. Your movements echo thousands of travelers who came before, their rhythms absorbed by the market and whispered back to you. Markets also specialize in recognition. Vendors often notice you before you notice them. Their eyes lock, their gestures extend, their voices rise to meet you. It feels personal, but it is also patterned. The market teaches its participants to anticipate faces, to sense returning presence even in strangers. Even if you have never been there before, the act of exchange makes you recognizable. The market knows you because you behave like everyone it has ever received. You are part of its script. And there is always a feeling of return. Even in foreign lands, markets feel familiar. The arrangement of stalls, the hum of voices, the rush of color and scent, it repeats endlessly across cultures. This is not mere similarity, it is memory. The market senses you because you have already lived this rhythm elsewhere. Each new market is a reawakening of an old recognition, a reminder that you belong to a lineage of buyers, sellers, wanderers, and observers who have always moved this way. Think of the way objects themselves carry presence in markets. Fruits laid in rows are not just goods, they are reminders of seasons, of harvests, of countless hands that plucked and carried them. Fabrics folded in piles whisper of distant lands, travelers and makers. Spices emit centuries of trade routes, histories of conquest and migration. Each item greets you with a memory older than itself, and when you touch it, the market folds you into that chain of recognition. Markets also anticipate emotion. They know your excitement when you stumble upon something unexpected. They know your hesitation when bargaining, your disappointment when walking away, your satisfaction when securing a treasure. These emotions are not yours alone. They are echoes of everyone who has ever felt them in the same space. The market senses these rhythms and adjusts around you. That is why, even when crowded, markets feel strangely coordinated. Each gesture, each pause, each exchange resonates with familiarity. There is a paradox here. You imagine you are exploring a market, discovering it, but the market is exploring you. It studies your movements, your glances, your hesitations. It learns you instantly, folding you into its choreography. You may believe you are anonymous in the crowd, but the market does not treat you that way. It senses your presence as distinctly as it sensed countless others before you, and it remembers. Even abandoned markets carry this memory. Walk through empty stalls, listen to the silence heavy with ghosts of commerce. You can almost hear the echoes, bargaining voices, clinking coins, laughter, arguments. The structures themselves hum with residue. An empty market still senses you, still greets you as though you are part of its endless cycle. The presence of absence is itself recognition. Dreams often place you in markets. You wander through aisles you cannot escape. Faces blur but feel familiar. The noise grows endless. These dreams are not random. They reflect the truth that markets sense returning presence so deeply that even in unconsciousness you cannot separate yourself from them. Your dreaming body knows what your waking mind forgets. That markets are memory in motion, and you are always part of them. And what does this mean for identity? It means that you are not simply an individual shopper, traveler, or passerby. You are one more presence inscribed into the market's archive. Your footsteps, your glances, your words join the collective rhythm, preserved even after you leave. Long after you forget what you bought or whom you saw, the market retains your presence. You return to it not because you choose to, but because it has already folded you into its endless cycle. This realization unsettles the illusion of novelty. You may believe each market is unique, but deep down you know its familiarity. You may believe you are new to it, but the market knows better. It senses you as one of countless returns, another variation in an old pattern. So the next time you step into a market, pause, listen to the rhythm of voices, watch how the crowd moves, feel how easily your body adapts. Know that you are not a stranger here. You are part of an endless performance, and the market has already written you into its script. Markets sense returning presence. They absorb every traveler, every buyer, every wanderer into their memory, and in their living hum, they remind you that no arrival is ever truly the first, only another return to a place that has always known you. Temples contain silent scripts. Step into a temple, and you immediately feel it. The shift in air, the weight of silence, the sense that something greater than you has already filled the space. Even if the temple is empty of worshippers, it does not feel empty. Its walls radiate intention. Its stones hum with centuries of repetition. Temples are not just sacred architecture, they are scripts written in silence, rehearsed over generations. Every prayer, every offering, every gesture has left an imprint. When you enter, you are not writing something new. You are reading lines that have always been there, silently waiting for you. Temples are designed to hold more than bodies. They hold memory, the alignment of their walls, the orientation of their entrances, the arrangement of their altars. All are deliberate, encoding meaning. Step into one, and you feel drawn into a choreography not of your making. Your steps slow, your voice softens, your gestures become deliberate. You believe you are acting out of reverence, but in truth, you are following a silent script. The temple has carried for centuries. It recognizes you as another performer in a play without end. Think of how temples differ from ordinary rooms. A room feels neutral until it is filled with people, but a temple feels alive even when deserted. This is because temples are layered with ritual. Candles burned, incense offered, chants repeated. All of these accumulate, embedding intention into the very materials. When you arrive, you feel that weight immediately. The silence is not absence. It is presence compressed into stillness. The temple greets you not with novelty, but with recognition. It knows this gesture, this breath, this prayer. It has seen them countless times before. Consider ancient temples, the Parthenon, Angkor Wat, Chichen Itza. Even as ruins, they radiate the same power. Tourists wander through them, yet the sensation persists. You are walking in a place that knows you. How can ruins know? Because the script does not vanish with decay. The stones carry memory. The alignment with sun and stars persists. The residue of countless rituals lingers in the air. Even broken, temples remain alive with recognition. Temples also preserve silence differently. Not all silence is the same. A temple's silence feels thick, almost alive, as if it holds its breath in anticipation. This is not the absence of sound, but the presence of memory. Countless prayers have filled that silence, and it remembers them. When you step into it, your breath and your stillness are absorbed into that same archive. You are not creating silence, you are inheriting it. There is something paradoxical about temples. They are places of devotion, yet they shape devotion more than they receive it. You think you come to offer prayers, but the temple already knows how you will pray. It has trained countless bodies before yours to bow, kneel, light, chant. You are simply following a rhythm that has already been written. The temple does not adapt to you, you adapt to it. Its silent script contains you before you even realize it. Even in dreams, temples appear as places of gravity. You may dream of wandering endless halls of stone, or of trying to reach an altar you cannot approach. These dreams reveal the truth that temples are not neutral. They are scripts so deeply embedded in human memory that they haunt even your unconscious. They remind you of rituals you may not recall, but that you have inherited nonetheless. Temples also blur the line between the individual and the collective. When you enter, you feel both yourself and the presence of countless others. Even if you are alone, you sense the weight of all who have been there before you. Their voices seem to whisper faintly in the air. Their gestures echo in your body. You are part of a congregation you cannot see, and the temple makes sure you feel it. And what does this mean for identity? If temples contain silent scripts, then you are not an isolated worshipper, but a continuation of a lineage of devotion. Your body remembers gestures you never learned. Your voice softens instinctively. Your eyes rise to altars without command. The temple recognizes you, folds you into its script, and ensures that you are part of something larger than yourself. The paradox is clear. You imagine you are bringing meaning into the temple, but the temple has always carried meaning into you. Its silence is older than your voice. Its script older than your life. You cannot help but play your part, because the lines are already written. So when you step into a temple, pause. Feel the silence pressing against you, the way your body shifts without your permission, the way recognition stirs even if you do not believe. Understand that you are not visiting a building. You are entering a script that has been waiting centuries for you. Temples contain silent scripts. They preserve the rituals of humanity not in books but in stone, air, and silence. And when you arrive, they remind you that you are not inventing reverence. You are remembering it. Cafés remember passing strangers. A café seems ordinary, a place for coffee, conversation, or brief pauses in the day. But if you sit quietly long enough, you begin to notice that cafés are not merely places of consumption. They are memory keepers, alive with the residue of strangers who came before you. Every table, every chair, every echo of laughter or hushed conversation is part of a quiet archive. Cafés remember passing strangers, and when you enter, you are absorbed into that memory, no different than those who once sat where you now sit. Consider the tables. They are worn not just by time but by gestures, hands resting, pens scribbling, cups setting down, fingers tapping impatiently. Even if polished or replaced, something remains: a subtle familiarity, a recognition that others have leaned into the same spot with similar moods. You feel it without naming it, the sense that your presence is not unique but one more layer in a long lineage of strangers. Cafés carry voices too. The air inside holds the faint echo of countless conversations. Words of love, words of grief, arguments, reconciliations, casual chatter, confessions whispered too softly to be heard. They linger. The hum of voices in a café is never only present. It is layered with everything that has been spoken there before. That is why cafés can feel oddly alive, as though the walls themselves are listening. You speak, and your words dissolve into a memory that will remain long after you leave. Think of how certain cafés carry moods. One feels contemplative, as if it was built for quiet study. Another feels restless, humming with laughter and clinking glasses. A third feels melancholic, steeped in solitude. These moods are not just atmosphere, they are memory. The café remembers the strangers who shaped it, and it greets you with their echoes. Even if you have never been there before, you recognize the mood instantly, because it has already been rehearsed and preserved. There is also something uncanny about sitting in a café alone. You may believe you are isolated, yet you feel accompanied. Strangers sit nearby, yes, but the feeling goes deeper. The café itself feels like company, as though the chairs, the tables, the air are watching, aware of your presence. Why? Because cafés are designed for impermanence. People come, linger briefly, and leave. The café grows fluent in absence, in fleeting presences that do not stay. When you arrive, it recognizes you instantly, as another passing figure. And yet, cafés also specialize in return. How often do you find yourself drawn back to the same corner table, the same barista's smile, the same scent of roasted beans? Even if you travel far, you stumble upon cafés that feel like replicas of those you once knew. This is not coincidence. It is recognition. Cafés anticipate your return because their script is endlessly repeatable. They whisper, "You've been here before, and you will be here again." Cafés are also dreamlike in their anonymity. You sit beside strangers whose names you will never know, yet you feel connected to them. Their presence becomes part of your moment, and yours part of theirs, even if unacknowledged. The café remembers this quiet intimacy. The chair you occupy has been shared by countless bodies, the air you breathe filled by countless sighs. You are woven into a collective tapestry of strangers, remembered not individually but collectively. Even abandoned cafés retain this memory. Enter one long closed, and you feel it instantly. The faint aroma of coffee and wood, the ghostly hum of chatter in silence, the residue of countless mornings and afternoons. The café remembers its strangers, even when it no longer serves them. Its empty tables still hum with presences, and it greets you as though you too are late, arriving after everyone else has already left. Dreams often return you to cafés. You sit at a table, waiting for someone who never arrives, or overhear voices you cannot fully understand. These dream cafés are not random inventions. They are the memory of all the cafés you have visited, stitched together into a single archive. Even in unconsciousness, the café remembers you, and you remember it. There is a paradox here. You imagine you are the one who makes cafes meaningful, filling them with conversation, with presence. But the truth is reversed. The cafe already knows how to receive you. It has rehearsed your presence through countless others before you. Your laughter is not new. Your solitude is not unfamiliar. The cafe remembers strangers endlessly, and in doing so it anticipates you. And what does this mean for identity? If cafes remember passing strangers, then you are not only yourself in those moments, but also part of an ongoing memory far larger than you. You are folded into the lineage of people who sat, sipped, waited, and moved on. Even if your name is forgotten, the cafe remembers the shape of your presence. You remain in the air, in the rhythm of the space, in the faint shadow of memory absorbed by chairs and tables. This realization dissolves the illusion of isolation. You cannot pass through a cafe unnoticed. Even if no one looks at you, the space remembers you. Even if no one greets you, you are folded into the memory of countless others. Strangers pass, but the cafe holds them all, quietly, patiently, endlessly. So the next time you sit in a cafe, pause, place your hand on the table, listen to the hum of voices, notice the way the air greets you, understand that you are not alone, not anonymous. You are being remembered, just like every stranger before you. Cafes remember passing strangers. They hold fleeting presences like treasures, preserving them in air and wood and silence. And in their quiet recognition, they remind you that no stranger is ever truly forgotten. Villagers hold ancestral recognition. Arrive in a village, and there is always a peculiar sensation. Even if you are a stranger, even if you have never set foot there before, the place seems to recognize you. The faces glance your way not only out of curiosity, but with a deeper awareness, as though they know something about you already. Villagers hold ancestral recognition. They do not need introductions because they carry memory older than your arrival, written into soil, into rituals, into the whispers of generations. When you walk into a village, you are not a newcomer. You are part of a story that has already accounted for you. Villages are not like cities. Cities thrive on anonymity, but villages thrive on memory. Each house, each path, each well carries lineage. People remember not only their neighbors, but their neighbors' ancestors, and their neighbors' neighbors' ancestors. This continuity weaves a recognition that extends beyond names and into essence. When you arrive, you are not greeted as an unknown. You are measured against memory, folded into categories of resemblance. You walk like someone's grandfather. You smile like someone's cousin. You carry an echo of someone who has already lived here. Consider the way villagers speak. Often they ask not who are you, but whose are you. The question reveals the truth. Your identity is not seen as separate, but as part of lineage. Villagers recognize you not as an isolated self, but as a continuation of ancestry. Even if you have no connection by blood, the resemblance is still sought. They look into your features and imagine whose presence you carry. You are already familiar to them, because the village insists that everyone belongs to an ancestral memory. The land itself participates in this recognition. The fields remember the farmers who worked them. The wells remember the hands that drew water. The roads remember the footsteps of children running to school, of elders walking to prayer. These rhythms do not vanish. They linger in the soil, in the stones, in the air. When you walk through, you feel the pull of familiarity because you are retracing the patterns of lives that came long before you. The village greets you not because it knows your name, but because it recognizes your steps as part of its long memory. Villages also preserve rituals of recognition. Think of festivals. They are not just celebrations but rehearsals of ancestral memory. Each song sung, each drumbeat played, each dance repeated carries the echo of those who performed it before. You may feel swept up in the rhythm, even if you have never heard it before, because the recognition is deeper than understanding. The village does not introduce you to its rituals. It assumes you already know because your body remembers what your mind has forgotten. There is also something uncanny about the way villages anticipate return. People who leave often find themselves drawn back, sometimes after decades. The return is never surprising. The village expects it, even if the people have changed, even if houses have crumbled, the land itself remembers. You are greeted as though no time has passed, as though your absence was only another thread in the pattern of belonging. Villages whisper, you can leave, but you will always return, because your presence is already inscribed here. Even abandoned villages hold this recognition. Walk through one, and you will feel it instantly. Empty houses still radiate the lives once lived in them. Paths still seem to wait for footsteps. Wells still hum with voices of those who once gathered. You may not know their names, but you feel as though they know you. The village does not need to be inhabited to recognize. Its recognition is carried in stone, in earth, in silence. Dreams often place you in villages too. You wander lanes that feel familiar though you cannot place them. You see faces that seem both strange and known. This is not imagination, but memory surfacing from deeper layers. Villages occupy your unconscious because they are built not only of houses, but of recognition itself. Even in dreams they greet you as though you belong. There is a paradox here. You believe recognition is personal, that it comes from being known as an individual. Villages reveal otherwise. Recognition is collective. It comes from being part of a lineage, a rhythm, a continuity larger than you. You are known not because of who you are, but because of how you resemble, how you repeat, how you return. Villages remind you that yourself is not isolated. It is ancestral. And what does this mean for identity? It means that who you are is not only yours, it is shared, inherited, woven into memory that outlasts you. Villages hold this truth openly. They do not let you forget that you are part of something older, that your presence is already accounted for in their memory. You may see yourself as a traveler passing through, but the village sees you as a return, a continuation, a familiar presence wrapped in new form. So the next time you walk into a village, pause. Listen to the way the air greets you, to the way faces glance at you with both curiosity and familiarity. Notice how your body relaxes as though it has been here before. Understand that you are not being introduced, you are being remembered. Villages hold ancestral recognition. They remind you that you are never truly unknown, because every place has already folded you into its lineage. You are not simply arriving, you are returning to a memory that has always been waiting for you. Towers observe lingering souls. From a distance, towers rise like guardians. They pierce the skyline, rigid and unmoving, yet full of watchfulness. Unlike houses or markets or streets, towers are not meant for passing through, they are meant for overseeing. They exist to look outward, to keep vigil, and in this vigilance, they become more than architecture. Towers observe lingering souls. They watch the lives below, they absorb the echoes of those who built them, and they carry the gaze of generations. When you stand near a tower, you feel it, the weight of its observation, as though it has been watching you long before you noticed it. Towers have always held symbolic power. They are built for defense, for religion, for pride, for memory. A watchtower scanning horizons for enemies, a bell tower marking the hours of prayer, a minaret calling the faithful, a skyscraper asserting dominance over a city. All towers share one essence. They observe. Their height is not only physical but symbolic, a claim to seeing more, knowing more, enduring longer. They do not blink, they do not tire, they simply remain, watching lives come and go beneath them. Think of medieval towers rising over villages. They were both protection and surveillance, a constant reminder that someone was always watching, even when no guard stood at the top. The structure itself seemed alive with vigilance. The villagers lived beneath that watch, adjusting their behavior as though the tower itself could see. In truth, it could, not with eyes, but with presence. It absorbed every shadow that crossed its base, every sound that carried upward. The tower became a living witness to every lingering soul. Consider modern towers, skyscrapers glowing at night. Each window may be dark or lit, each floor humming with different lives. Yet from the ground, the building itself feels like a single colossal eye, watching the city. You sense it not only as structure, but as presence. Even if no one is looking down, the tower retains the memory of all who have. It does not forget the gazes cast from its height, the ambitions, the despairs, the longing stares into the distance. When you look up, you feel returned to that archive, recognized as part of the continuum. Towers also hold souls differently than other places. People linger near them, lovers meeting at their base, mourners gathering, soldiers departing, dreamers staring upward. The tower absorbs these presences, not through sound but through stillness. The way people gather beneath, the way they pause in awe, the way they use the tower as point of orientation, all of it becomes part of its silent observation. A tower does not need to move to remember. It remembers by standing, endlessly present, until everything around it fades. There is something uncanny in this patience. Towers outlast generations. The souls who built them die, but the tower remains. Travelers who passed beneath them are gone, but the tower still recalls, even when ruined. Towers retain their watchfulness. A broken tower in the desert, a crumbled fortress on a cliff. They no longer serve their function, yet they still observe. Their gaze is not physical but spiritual, a lingering presence that greets you when you approach. You feel known not because someone is there, but because the tower itself carries memory. Myths recognize this watchfulness. Towers appear in legends as places of imprisonment and revelation, as sites of divine or cursed vision. Rapunzel locked in a tower, Babel rising toward heaven, watchtowers of forgotten cities haunted by spirits. These stories are not arbitrary. They arise because humans have always felt the gaze of towers. They are structures that do not merely stand but see. Their observation is not momentary, it is eternal. Even in dreams, towers haunt. You may find yourself climbing endless stairs, never reaching the top, or you may stand below one, unable to enter, feeling its gaze pressing into you. Such dreams are not random. They reflect the truth that towers symbolize observation beyond your control. They remind you that you are never unseen, even when you believe you are alone. The tower knows you, because the tower remembers. And what does this mean for identity? If towers observe lingering souls, then part of who you are is inscribed not in yourself, but in the structures that have watched you. Your life is not only lived but observed, and those observations are preserved in stone and steel. Every time you passed a tower, you left something behind. A gesture, a shadow, a presence. The tower still carries it. You may have forgotten, but the tower has not. There is a paradox here. You imagine towers as static, lifeless objects, yet their stillness is precisely what allows them to remember. By not moving, they become the ultimate witnesses, observing everything that passes around them. You think you are looking up at a tower, but in truth, the tower is looking down at you, folding you into its long memory of souls that lingered before. So the next time you stand before a tower, pause. Notice the way it rises, the way it casts its shadow, the way it seems to fix its presence upon you. Feel the weight of observation, the recognition in its silence. Understand that you are not just seeing a structure, you are being seen, remembered, and preserved. Towers observe lingering souls. They are monuments of memory, guardians of presence, silent eyes upon the world. And in their endless observation, they remind you that nothing you do beneath their gaze is ever truly lost. Gardens anticipate your movements. Step into a garden, and you are met with a sensation unlike any other. Unlike forests, which feel ancient and untamed, or markets, which pulse with human repetition, gardens feel curated, deliberate, as though they have been waiting for you. Flowers tilt in sunlight, pathways curve with intention, benches rest at just the right points of shade. It all feels uncanny in its readiness. Gardens anticipate your movements. They are not passive arrangements of plants, but choreographed spaces, designed to recognize and receive you before you arrive. Gardens are human attempts to shape nature, but in doing so, they become something more than design. They are collaborations. The gardener places the tree, but the tree bends toward the light on its own. The architect lays the path, but moss creeps through the cracks where it chooses. Over decades, these choices merge into something resembling memory. When you walk into a garden, you are not merely strolling through flowers, you are stepping into a script rehearsed by both human hands and natural growth, one that has already anticipated your path. Notice how your body behaves in gardens. You do not walk in straight lines, but follow curves. You pause at fountains, lean against railings, lower your voice without command. These gestures are not spontaneous. They are the responses gardens expect. The path bends to meet you, the tree shades you just where you will want to rest. The scent of blossoms arrives exactly as you pause. The garden greets you with anticipation, ensuring that your movements feel natural, even though they were always rehearsed. Even wild gardens, those overgrown and untended, retain this anticipation. Step into one, and you will feel guided nonetheless. A narrow clearing inviting you to walk, a cluster of flowers suggesting you pause, an opening in trees drawing you forward. The garden is never neutral. It is always ready for your presence, even if that readiness feels subtle like a whisper beneath the leaves. There is something deeply human about gardens, yet also deeply beyond us. Ancient civilizations built them not only for beauty, but for memory and ritual. Persian gardens mirrored paradise. Japanese Zen gardens distilled contemplation into stones and sand. European palace gardens staged power through symmetry. Each of these spaces anticipated the human body, guiding steps, shaping vision, training emotions. To walk through them was never random. It was to participate in a script the garden had already written. Gardens also remember the lives that passed within them. Lovers who walked hand in hand, children who played beneath trees, elders who sat quietly in shade, their presences remain. The soil retains their steps, the benches their weight, the flowers their breath. When you walk into a garden, you are recognized not only as yourself, but as part of this long rhythm. Your presence is absorbed and folded into the anticipation for the next visitor. Even dreams recall gardens this way. You may dream of walking paths that bend endlessly, of searching for a fountain just out of reach, of sitting in shade that feels both familiar and strange. These dreams are not invention but memory rising, the memory of countless gardens your body already knows how to walk. In dreams as in waking, gardens anticipate. And there is always a sense of return. How often do you find yourself drawn back to a garden, even unconsciously? You visit the same spot year after year, though the flowers change. You pause at the same bench, though your life has altered. The garden expects this. Its anticipation is not for a single visit, but for return, for repetition. It greets you as though you never left, folding your past presence into your present steps. There is also a paradox here. You imagine that you choose how to move through a garden, but in truth, the garden chooses for you. Its paths curve deliberately, its openings frame your gaze, its scents arrive at chosen moments. Your movements are predicted, almost choreographed. You do not wander, you perform. The garden's quiet intelligence guides you through a script it has prepared for centuries. What does this mean for identity? It means you are not an isolated visitor shaping experience, but a continuation of patterns already anticipated. The garden does not treat you as stranger. It recognizes the way you pause, the way you bend to smell a flower, the way you lean into shade, because it has seen them all before, and yet it greets you personally, as if its anticipation is uniquely for you. Even abandoned gardens anticipate. Walk through one overtaken by weeds, and still you sense the remnants of guidance. The path may be broken, but your body still finds it. The fountain may be dry, but you still pause before it. The anticipation lingers, waiting for a presence to fulfill it again. Gardens do not erase their memory, they hold it in silence, patient for return. So the next time you step into a garden, pause. Notice how the path bends just as you arrive, how the light shifts when you stop, how the air greets you with scent precisely as you inhale. None of this is coincidence. It is anticipation, woven into design, carried forward by memory, alive in the present moment. Gardens anticipate your movements. They are not passive places but sentient scripts, shaping your presence before you even choose. And in their anticipation, they remind you that your journey is always known, always rehearsed, always expected. Oceans memorize human drift. Stand before the ocean, and you feel its immensity at once. Its horizon stretches beyond vision. Its tides breathe with a rhythm older than civilization. You may think the ocean is indifferent, too vast to notice you. Yet the truth is the opposite. The ocean memorizes. It does not forget ships that sailed, bodies that drowned, prayers whispered into the waves, or footprints washed from the shore. Oceans memorize human drift, carrying the residue of every crossing, every longing, every loss. When you gaze upon the sea, you are not meeting emptiness but recognition. From the earliest days, humans turned to the sea for travel and survival. Canoes, rafts, ships, and fleets carried people across its surface. Each journey was recorded, not in books but in water. The wakes of vessels dissolved into waves, but their memory did not vanish. The ocean absorbed them, storing them in its endless motion. That is why sailors speak of seas with reverence, why travelers feel awe at the shoreline. It is not just the size of the ocean, it is its memory pressing back against you. Consider the rhythm of tides. They move in and out, endlessly repeating, yet never the same. This repetition is memory embodied. The tide that retreats carries with it whispers of everything it touched: shells, driftwood, tears, blood, laughter. When it returns, it does not come empty. It brings fragments of memory back, reshaped, remixed, remembered. That is why the sound of waves feels so haunting. You are listening not only to water, but to centuries of drift being carried forward. The ocean also remembers through smell and taste, the salt in the air, the brine on your lips. These are not just chemicals, they are the condensation of human history. Sweat from rowers, salt from tears, blood from wounds, ashes from fires, all eventually found their way to the sea, and the sea did not forget. It folded them into its salt, into its endless memory. so that when you breathe the air, you breathe echoes of countless lives. Even stories reflect this truth. Cultures across the world imagine oceans as gods, as deities of memory and judgment. Poseidon in Greece, Varuna in India, Tangaroa in Polynesia. Each was not only a god of water, but of fate. Why? Because humans always sensed that the sea was more than an element. It was a ledger. It remembered every offering, every shipwreck, every voyage. Myths only gave form to what was already felt. The ocean does not let go of memory. There is also a strange intimacy in drifting. When a boat drifts upon waves, it feels both directionless and guided. You are at the mercy of the sea, yet you are also part of its rhythm. The ocean anticipates this. It has always known how humans drift. Your small vessel is not an intrusion, but a continuation of countless others. The sea knows the pattern, and it absorbs your drift into its archive. Even if you never return, the ocean retains you, one more ripple in its endless memory. Think of how oceans carry objects. A bottle tossed from one shore appears centuries later on another. Debris from shipwrecks washes up thousands of miles away. A message, a fragment, a piece of wood, all carried forward. The ocean does not lose, it stores. It becomes the carrier of forgotten things, drifting them endlessly until they are remembered again. Even absence is remembered by the sea. When people vanish into it, their presence is not erased but preserved in depth and current. That is why oceans often feel heavy with grief. They hold every loss, every disappearance, and yet they do not weep. They simply remember, silently, endlessly. Dreams reveal this more clearly. You dream of drifting at sea, of being pulled beneath waves, of standing at a shoreline unable to cross. These are not random images, but the ocean whispering memory back into you. Your unconscious recognizes what waking life denies, that you belong to the ocean's archive, whether you sailed or not. And what does this mean for identity? It means that who you are is not limited to land. Part of you belongs to the sea, carried in its memory of humanity's endless drift. You may never have sailed, yet your ancestors did. Their journeys, their losses, their hopes are still moving within the ocean. When you stand at its edge, you are recognized not as stranger but as continuation. The paradox is clear. You imagine oceans are empty, erasing footsteps, swallowing memory. But in truth, they are the most complete archives of all. They absorb everything and forget nothing. They carry forward endlessly, reshaping but never discarding. You cannot pass unnoticed by the sea. So the next time you stand before the ocean, pause, listen to its rhythm, smell the salt, watch the waves returning again and again. Understand that you are not gazing at emptiness, but at memory itself. You are recognized, absorbed, and carried forward, just like every human before you. Oceans memorize human drift. They hold the stories of the world in silence and motion, reminding you that even when you leave no trace on land, the sea remembers. Mountains know returning paths. Mountains rise with an immensity that makes human life seem fleeting. They stand still while centuries pass, their peaks catching light that civilizations never see. You may imagine that mountains are indifferent, that their permanence leaves no room for recognition. Yet when you climb, when you wander along ridges, when you return after years away, you feel something undeniable. The mountain remembers you. Its paths are not erased, but waiting. Its ridges are not indifferent, but familiar. Mountains know returning paths, and when your feet touch them again, they do not ask who you are. They greet you as though you never left. Paths on mountains are never accidental. They are carved slowly, by water, by wind, by countless footsteps. Shepherds herding animals, pilgrims seeking shrines, wanderers chasing solitude. All have walked the same trails, leaving them etched into stone. Even when overgrown or hidden, the mountain retains them. And when you arrive, your body seems to know where to step. You place your feet in grooves worn by generations, and you feel as though the mountain itself has been guiding you back to that place all along. There is something uncanny in how familiar mountains can feel. Even if you have never climbed them before, you stand on a ridge, and the view feels like déjà vu. You reach a clearing and your breath catches with recognition. This familiarity is not coincidence. Mountains repeat patterns, their switchbacks, their valleys, their meadows mirror each other across time and space. Your ancestors may have walked similar ridges, and your body carries those memories forward. The mountain whispers to you, you have been here before, even if not in this lifetime. Consider pilgrimage mountains. People return to them, year after year, century after century. Sacred paths wind upward, and each pilgrim follows not only the trail but the memory of all who came before. These mountains know the rhythm of return. They anticipate the prayers, the pauses, the fatigue, the awe. Even when pilgrims change, the path remains the same, and the mountain greets each new traveler as part of an ancient cycle. Mountains also shape your movements in ways that reveal their memory. A steep incline slows you, forcing humility. A plateau encourages pause, as if offering space to look inward. A narrow ridge demands precision, sharpening your awareness. These effects feel personal, but they are rehearsed. And the mountain has guided countless travelers the same way, and it guides you too. It knows where you will stumble, where you will rest, where you will return to catch your breath. Your body is not choosing, it is responding to a script the mountain already wrote. Even absence is remembered. You may leave a mountain for years, but when you return, it feels unchanged, as though waiting patiently. Yet it is not unchanged. It has been carrying your memory in silence. The wind that met your face once before greets you again. The stone that pressed beneath your hand does so once more. The path that challenged you remembers your struggle and folds it into your next ascent. You are not starting anew, you are resuming. Mountains also hold stories in their very geology. Layers of stone record ages beyond imagination. Fossils of long-dead creatures lie hidden in cliffs. Rivers carve valleys that tell of movements millions of years old. When you walk a mountain path, you are moving not only through space but through time. The mountain remembers eras you cannot comprehend, and by walking, you are folded into its vast memory. Your return is not only to the path, but to a timeline that predates humanity. Dreams often place you on mountains. You climb endlessly, you stumble on narrow ridges, you look down into valleys that seem bottomless. These dreams are not accidents. They are reminders that mountains live in memory deeper than waking thought. They represent the weight of permanence, the pull of return, the knowledge that no matter how far you travel, the mountain waits. There is a paradox in mountains. They appear immovable, yet they guide movement. They stand still, yet they draw you back. They are larger than human life, yet intimate in their recognition of you. You believe you are conquering a mountain by climbing it, but the truth is inverted. The mountain is testing you, remembering you, folding you into its story. You are not the first, and will not be the last, but you are always known. And what does this mean for identity? If mountains know returning paths, then who you are is partly defined by where you return. The paths you walk do not vanish, they persist, waiting for your next step. You are not a solitary traveler, but part of an ancient rhythm of ascent, descent and return. Your life is not linear but cyclical, and mountains reveal this truth by remembering your presence. So the next time you stand at the foot of a mountain, pause, look at its ridges, its trails, its stones. Feel the way it greets you, not as a stranger, but as someone it has already seen. Understand that the path is not new, it is waiting, anticipating, remembering. Mountains know returning paths. They stand as monuments of memory, witnesses of countless journeys, and in their permanence, they remind you that no step is ever forgotten, and no return is ever unexpected. Stations await familiar faces. There is something uncanny about stations, whether train depots, bus terminals, or airport gates. They carry an atmosphere of anticipation. You walk in, and even before your ticket is checked, you feel it. The station already knows you. It feels less like arrival, and more like recognition, as though the place has been rehearsing your presence long before you stepped through its doors. Stations await familiar faces. They are built not just for movement, but for return, greeting each traveler as though they are simply coming back to a story already in progress. Stations specialize in cycles. Unlike monuments that stand to be admired or villages that hold you in place, stations exist only for passage. Every arrival implies a departure. Every departure implies a return. This cycle becomes memory. The benches absorb waiting bodies. The floors remember the rush of footsteps. The air holds the vibrations of countless reunions and farewells. When you sit in a station, you are never the first. The place already carries the echoes of those who sat before you, waiting, watching, departing. Consider how stations feel familiar, even when new to you. Walk into one you have never visited before, and still you know where to go. The platforms, the waiting halls, the ticket counters. This recognition is not coincidence. Stations are patterned spaces, designed around repetition. Their very architecture anticipates you, guiding you instinctively, folding you into rituals of travel you already know. It feels like memory, because it is memory, not yours alone, but the collective recognition of countless travelers before you. Stations also magnify emotion. Few places carry such extremes: ecstatic reunions, tearful goodbyes, anxious waiting, weary returns. These emotions are not erased when people leave. They are layered into the station's atmosphere. That is why when you sit on a bench, you sometimes feel inexplicably heavy or joyful. You are inheriting emotions the station still carries. It recognizes you not as a stranger, but as another actor stepping onto a stage, saturated with memory. Think of how stations recognize faces. You have likely seen it, a person waiting, scanning the crowd, then lighting up when a familiar figure emerges. This drama repeats endlessly. Even if no one is waiting for you, the station feels as though it is. Its platforms are built on expectation, its architecture shaped around recognition. The air hums with waiting, and when you step off a train or a bus, you feel it immediately. You are being looked for, even if only by the place itself. There is a paradox in stations. They are temporary by design, yet they hold permanence in memory. No one stays in a station forever, yet everyone leaves traces. The warmth of a hug at a gate, the anxiety of watching the clock, the relief of seeing a train arrive, all of it remains. You pass through quickly, but the station retains you, adding your face to its ledger of familiarity. That is why returning to an old station feels so haunting. Even if remodeled, even if strangers fill it, you feel greeted. The station has been waiting. Even abandoned stations carry this recognition. Walk through one with broken benches and silent tracks, and you feel the weight of lives that once passed there. The walls hum with memory. The platforms feel restless. The air feels full of absence. It is as though the station is still waiting, expecting faces that will never come. Its anticipation lingers even when trains no longer run. Dreams often place you in stations. You sit with a ticket but never board, or you search for a platform you cannot find, or you recognize faces that seem half familiar. These dreams are not arbitrary. They reflect the deep truth of stations. They are places of perpetual expectation. Your unconscious understands that you are always waiting, always arriving, always departing, and that stations exist to hold that cycle. And what does this mean for identity? If stations await familiar faces, then part of who you are is not in your home or your work, but in your passages. Your identity is written in your arrivals and departures, in the times you were recognized, greeted, or left behind. Stations remember this. They hold pieces of you scattered across platforms you may never see again, but that still recall you as part of their cycle. The paradox sharpens here. You believe you are passing through a station, but in truth, the station is passing through you. It alters your emotions, shapes your rhythms, absorbs your presence. Long after you leave, the place remembers, and when you return, it greets you, not as new, but as known. So the next time you sit in a station, pause, watch the crowd moving, listen to the announcements, feel the air buzzing with expectation. Understand that you are not alone in waiting. The station itself is waiting, and it has always been waiting, not only for travelers in general but for you in particular. Stations await familiar faces. They are thresholds of recognition, places where presence is never forgotten, and in their endless anticipation, they remind you that no journey is ever anonymous. Every departure is remembered, and every arrival has already been expected. Libraries preserve invisible traces. Enter a library, and you are enveloped in a silence unlike any other. It is not emptiness but density, a silence filled with presence. Shelves stretch into corridors, rows of books press together like witnesses, and the air itself feels saturated with memory. You believe you are there to read, to learn, to discover, but the truth is subtler. The library is already reading you. It has recorded your entrance, absorbed your presence, and filed you alongside all who came before. Libraries preserve invisible traces, not only the words in their books, but the lives of those who touched them. Think of the books themselves. Each one seems identical, yet every copy carries fingerprints, marginal notes, creases in its spine, stains from cups, faint scents of places it has traveled. When you open a book, you are not reading in isolation. You are joining the traces of countless others who turned those same pages, who paused at the same paragraphs, who felt the same awe or confusion. The library remembers through these details, quietly preserving your presence in the smallest of marks. But the preservation goes deeper than objects. Libraries absorb movements. The rhythm of footsteps echoing across wooden floors, the shuffle of chairs, the soft thud of books being reshelved, all of it lingers. Even after the room is empty, the memory remains, folded into the silence. That is why library silence feels alive. It is not absence of sound but accumulation of echoes. When you sit down to read, you are not alone. The silence greets you with the presence of everyone who has ever read there before. Libraries also hold emotional traces. The joy of a student discovering a passage that answers their question. The despair of someone searching for meaning in books they cannot understand. The intimacy of two people reading side by side in quiet companionship. These emotions do not leave with the reader. They dissolve into the air, into the shelves, into the very atmosphere. That is why libraries feel charged with weight you cannot name. They preserve not just knowledge, but the invisible feelings that knowledge awakens. Even abandoned libraries carry this presence. Step into one where dust coats the shelves and the books are crumbling, and you will feel it immediately. The air hums with absence that is not empty but full of memory. Every trace of movement, every touch of a hand, every breath taken between shelves still lingers. The books may decay, but the traces remain, invisible yet undeniable. There is also a paradox here. Libraries are often thought of as places where humans preserve knowledge, yet they preserve us as much as we preserve them. Every time you walk between shelves, every time you pull out a volume, every time you sit in a patch of light and read until the world disappears, the library records you. You think you are using it, but it is also using you, collecting your presence, preserving your invisible trace among its aisles. Consider the architecture of libraries. Grand ones with vaulted ceilings and marble floors seem designed to make you feel small, a reminder that you are one among countless others who have stood there. Smaller ones with quiet nooks and dim light seem designed to make you feel held, a reminder that even in solitude you are never alone. In both cases, the building shapes your behavior, guides your movements, and ensures your trace is left. The library anticipates you because it already knows how you will move, how you will pause, how you will breathe within it. Dreams often place you in libraries too. Endless shelves, books whose titles blur, passages you can never quite finish. These dream libraries are not inventions but recognitions. Your unconscious knows what your waking self forgets, that libraries preserve not just words but presences. You dream of wandering their halls because part of you is always still there, left behind in the invisible traces you deposited. And what does this mean for identity? If libraries preserve invisible traces, then part of who you are is not only within you but within the spaces you inhabit. You may forget what you read, but the library remembers you read it. You may never return to the same desk, but the desk remembers you sat there. You are not only the sum of your knowledge, but the sum of the places that preserved you while you sought it. The paradox sharpens. You imagine that you pass through libraries unnoticed, anonymous in the crowd, but anonymity is an illusion. The library does not need to know your name. It knows your presence in subtler ways. The indentation of your hand on a page, the warmth of your body pressed into a chair, the breath you left in its silence. These are your invisible traces, and the library has already preserved them. So the next time you step into a library, pause. Feel the way the silence greets you. Notice how the air seems to thicken as you move, how the shelves seem to lean in as if listening. Understand that you are not only there to take from the library, but to leave something behind. Libraries preserve invisible traces. They are archives not only of knowledge but of life, memory, and presence. And in their preservation, they remind you that you are never forgotten, even in the quietest corners. Parks rehearse old meetings. Walk into a park, and it feels open, casual, even ordinary. Children run across the grass. Couples sit on benches. Elders stroll slowly under the trees. Yet beneath this ordinariness is something profound. Parks are not just spaces of leisure, they are theaters of repetition. Every gathering, every pause, every encounter leaves an imprint. Parks rehearse old meetings, repeating gestures and rhythms of the past so seamlessly that when you sit down you feel as though you are stepping into a memory already written. Parks exist to hold gatherings. Unlike forests which feel ancient and wild, or gardens which are curated and private, parks are communal. They are designed for people to meet, linger, speak, laugh, and leave, only to return again. That rhythm of departure and return accumulates. The benches remember the weight of countless bodies, the lawns carry footsteps layered upon footsteps, and the air holds echoes of conversations once whispered under the shade. When you sit on the grass, You are not the first, and you are not alone. The park has rehearsed this moment endlessly. Think of how easily you fall into patterns in a park. You walk along paths without questioning them. You pause where others pause. You gravitate toward familiar spots. A tree offering shade, a fountain murmuring in the distance, a quiet bench by the water. None of this is random. The park anticipates your behavior, because it has trained countless bodies to move this way before. Your presence is recognized, not as unique, but as part of a choreography the park has been rehearsing for generations. Even the smallest details of parks carry memory: a patch of worn grass where children have played ball, a bench polished smooth from years of visitors leaning into its slats, a tree whose bark has been carved with initials, layered one upon another like echoes of love and longing. These are not accidents, they are rehearsals. Each mark, each dent, each echo is a record of meetings repeated and remembered, carried forward into the next gathering. Parks also specialize in coincidence, or what feels like coincidence. You run into an old friend you didn't expect to see. You cross paths with someone familiar yet unnamed. You overhear a conversation that feels strangely timed. These encounters are not entirely chance. Parks cultivate them. They draw people into shared rhythms, placing them on converging paths, ensuring that lives cross. The park knows these meetings because it has staged them before. You are simply playing out the latest performance. Consider how parks feel different at different times of day. In the morning, joggers and early walkers claim the space. At midday, children fill it with noise and games. At evening, couples and groups linger in fading light. At night, silence returns, heavy but alive with traces of all that came before. This daily rhythm is itself a rehearsal, performed over and over, the park preserving its roles and assigning them to each new visitor. You think you are choosing when to arrive, but the park has already set the stage for you. Even abandoned or forgotten parks retain this memory. The swings may rust, the paths may crack, but the air still carries the sense of gatherings. You feel it instantly, a heaviness, a presence, as though the park is still waiting for its visitors to return. Its rehearsals are paused, not erased. The stage is empty, but the memory of past meetings still hums in silence, ready to begin again when someone enters. Dreams often return you to parks. You wander paths that feel both familiar and strange. You sit on benches waiting for someone who never arrives. You hear voices echoing through trees. These dreams are not accidents. They are the subconscious replaying the rehearsals of countless meetings, reminding you that the park does not forget, even when you do not consciously recall who you met, where you sat, or what you felt. The park remembers and carries those echoes into your dream. There is a paradox here. Parks are designed for impermanence, for fleeting moments of leisure, yet they hold permanence in memory. You imagine your visit is casual, but the park treats it as part of an endless cycle. Your laughter, your silence, your footsteps, all of it is preserved, rehearsed again by others who will unknowingly echo you. The park does not let anything vanish, it transforms presence into repetition. And what does this mean for identity? If parks rehearse old meetings, then part of who you are exists outside of you, replayed in the gatherings you participated in. Your presence lingers in the park, waiting to be echoed. You may forget the afternoon you once spent beneath a tree, but the park does not. It stages the same gestures again and again, folding new visitors into your memory. You are part of a play that continues without end. So the next time you step into a park, pause. Watch how easily people fall into familiar rhythms. The child running, the lovers leaning, the elder resting, the stranger crossing paths with another. Notice how you too are guided, how your body finds its place without instruction. Understand that you are not inventing the moment. You are fulfilling it. Parks rehearse old meetings. They preserve the gestures of those who came before, repeating them through you, through strangers, through generations. And in their rehearsals, they remind you that nothing is ever entirely new. Every gathering is a return, every meeting a memory, every presence already known. Alleys recognize silent strangers. Step into an alley, and the world shifts. The broad openness of streets collapses into narrow passageways, shadows stretch longer, and every sound seems amplified. Alleys are not neutral shortcuts. They are thresholds of recognition. They notice you immediately, not with eyes but with presence. Even if you walk quietly, even if you believe yourself unseen, the alley knows. Alleys recognize silent strangers, carrying the weight of every life that has passed through them, measuring each step against an archive of footsteps already preserved. Unlike grand boulevards built to display, Alleys exist to conceal. They are the spaces between, the narrow arteries of cities and villages that hold what cannot be shown in the open. Because of this, they accumulate memory differently. Secrets whispered against walls, hurried footsteps escaping watchful eyes, laughter spilling from windows above, all of it lingers in the air. When you walk through, you are not anonymous. The alley folds you into its long memory, and you become one more silent stranger in its archive. Notice how your body behaves in alleys. Your steps quicken, your senses sharpen. You glance over your shoulder, you measure the shadows, you anticipate what may appear around the bend. These instincts are not only yours, they are rehearsed responses, shaped by centuries of travelers who moved the same way. The alley remembers their vigilance and teaches it to you. You think you are cautious by choice, but in truth, you are recognized and guided by the memory the alley carries. Alleys are also stages of brief encounters. Strangers brush past each other without speaking, eyes avoiding or lingering just too long. Sometimes, recognition flares in silence, a nod, a glance, a momentary connection. The alley specializes in this kind of recognition, not loud, not announced, but fleeting and sharp, like a whisper in passing. You may never see that stranger again, yet the alley holds the memory of the encounter, preserving it long after both of you have gone. Consider how alleys carry the texture of the forgotten, crumbling bricks, graffiti half erased, windows with peeling paint, doors that lead nowhere. These details are not decay alone, they are records. Each mark, each scratch, each layer of graffiti is a trace of someone who stood there once, someone who left their presence behind. The alley remembers these lives, and when you pass, it recognizes you as part of the same lineage of silent strangers who leave without explanation. Even abandoned alleys retain this recognition. Walk down one where no one has passed in years, and you will still feel watched. The silence is thick, the shadows alive as though waiting for you. This sensation is not paranoia but memory pressing against you. The alley does not need constant presence to remember. It holds every stranger within its narrow walls, and it greets you with that accumulation. Dreams often place you in alleys too. You wander endless narrow paths, unable to escape, or you encounter strangers whose faces blur. These dream alleys are not random. They are manifestations of recognition. Your unconscious knows what alleys have always known, that you cannot enter them unseen, that your presence is recorded, that your silence does not make you invisible. There is a paradox here. You imagine alleys are overlooked, unnoticed parts of cities, but in truth, they are the most watchful. Grand streets may distract with spectacle, but alleys concentrate attention. They recognize you with precision. Every step echoes, every breath seems louder, every hesitation more visible. You are seen more fully in the narrowness than you are in the open. And what does this mean for identity? If alleys recognize silent strangers, then who you are is not entirely yours. Part of your identity is held in fleeting encounters, in the way you walked once through a passageway never to return. Your presence lingers there, not as a grand story, but as a shadow, a trace among countless others. You are remembered, even if you never intended to be. Even the city itself depends on alleys for recognition. They are its memory banks, its secret archives. The grand avenues change with trends, but alleys retain what was hidden, what was whispered, what was left unsaid. When you step into one, you are stepping into the city's unconscious, and the unconscious always remembers. So the next time you find yourself in an alley, pause. Notice the texture of walls, the sound of your footsteps, the way the shadows seem alive. Recognize that you are not merely crossing through. You are being recognized, recorded, absorbed. Alleys recognize silent strangers. They preserve fleeting presences in shadows and walls, ensuring that no step is truly lost, and no traveler ever truly unknown. Windows watch returning selves. Stand before a window, and you will feel it. The quiet sensation of being observed. Windows are not mere openings. They are thresholds between worlds. From outside they reflect, from inside they reveal. They let you see while making you visible. More than glass and frame, they are instruments of recognition. Windows watch returning selves. Every glance you cast into or out of them is remembered, layered into the archive of lives that stood where you stand now. Consider how windows alter your movements. You pause before one, even without meaning to. You look through them to see beyond, but you also catch your own reflection staring back. That reflection is not casual. It is the window reminding you that you are both observer and observed, that each time you look, you are returning to a version of yourself already recorded there. Windows remember through repetition. How many mornings have people stood by them, sipping coffee, gazing into distance? How many evenings have figures leaned silently against them, watching streets below? Each gesture leaves something behind, not in the glass itself, but in the memory of the frame, in the presence of the space. When you stand at a window, you echo these gestures. You believe you are acting freely, but the window has already rehearsed you, folding your presence into the rhythm of all who came before. Think of city windows glowing at night. Each one seems to hold a fragment of life. Someone cooking, someone reading, someone lost in thought. From the street, you look up and feel strangely familiar with those lives, even if you never meet them. That familiarity is not illusion. It is the recognition windows preserve. They have watched countless figures repeat the same gestures, and they extend that recognition to you. You are not seeing strangers. You are seeing reflections of returning selves. Even abandoned windows carry this watchfulness. Glass may be shattered, frames warped, yet when you approach, you feel it, the weight of countless gazes once cast through them. Empty buildings still seem alive because their windows remember. They hold the absence of lives once pressed against the glass, and in that absence they still watch. Windows also anticipate return. Think of how often you glance at the same view. You return to a window again and again, almost without thought. The tree outside, the street corner, the skyline beyond. They shift with time, but the frame remains. The window knows you will return, and when you do, it greets you with familiarity. You believe you are revisiting the view, but the view is revisiting you, through the patience of the window. Dreams often feature windows too. You stand before one but cannot open it, or you see a reflection you do not recognize, or you gaze out onto landscapes both strange and familiar. These dream windows are not random. They embody recognition. Your unconscious understands what waking life hides. That windows are mirrors of memory, watching you as much as you watch through them. There is also a paradox in windows. They promise transparency, yet they conceal as much as they reveal. You see outward, but others see inward. You gaze at strangers, but your reflection interrupts, reminding you that you are also a stranger to yourself. This paradox is why windows feel alive. They refuse the illusion of one-way observation. They always return your gaze, reminding you that you cannot look without being seen. And what does this mean for identity? If windows watch returning selves, then who you are is scattered across countless panes of glass. Every time you paused, stared, or reflected, a piece of you remained there. The window remembers the person you were then and greets you when you return, even if you have changed. Your self is not only internal but external, preserved in thresholds that watch you endlessly. Even in stories, windows carry this truth. Lovers meet at windows, children peer curiously from them, dreamers gaze outward into possibility. The window is never just an opening, it is a participant in memory, holding the weight of longing, curiosity, and reflection. It knows you because it has seen you, not just once, but in all your returns. So the next time you stand at a window, pause. Notice how you lean closer without realizing, how you catch your own gaze in reflection, how you feel both observer and observed. Understand that this is no coincidence. The window is not empty glass. It is memory, watching, anticipating, remembering. Windows watch returning selves. They preserve your presence each time you approach, and when you come back, they greet you with the recognition of someone they have always known. Towns carry hidden awareness. Arrive in a town you have never seen before, and you might expect disorientation, new streets, new buildings, unfamiliar rhythms. Yet more often than not, something else happens. The town feels strangely familiar. Its roads curve in ways your body already understands. Its markets hum with a rhythm you recognize. Its faces seem to glance at you as though they have always known you. This is no illusion of comfort. It is recognition. Towns carry hidden awareness. They observe you without spectacle. They remember lives without announcing it, and they receive you not as stranger but as a presence already accounted for. Towns are different from cities. Cities dazzle and overwhelm, villages anchor themselves in lineage. Towns fall in between, holding a balance of both. They are large enough to absorb strangers, yet small enough to retain memory. A town does not forget easily. It carries the awareness of every hand that built it, every voice that echoed through its streets, every event that shaped its rhythm. When you walk through one, you feel this awareness pressing gently against you. The place already knows how to fold you in. Consider how towns shape movement. Their roads are not only designed by planners, but by repetition. Shortcuts worn into dirt, routes between homes and markets, paths leading inevitably to a central square. When you walk, you follow these routes unconsciously. Your body adapts to a rhythm that has been rehearsed for centuries. You may think you are exploring, but the town is guiding you, anticipating your movements, teaching you to repeat gestures countless others have made before you. Awareness in towns is subtle but powerful. Notice how eyes follow you in the market, not with hostility but with curiosity. Notice how conversations pause as you pass, how laughter resumes just after. The town is acknowledging you, testing your presence against its memory. Even if no one speaks your name, you are recognized. Not because they know you personally, but because the town carries a pattern, and you are instantly folded into it. Even architecture participates in this awareness. The church bell that rings at noon, the clock tower that regulates the day, the storefronts opening at the same time each morning. These rhythms train inhabitants and visitors alike. You do not resist, you adjust. The town's awareness becomes your awareness. Its cycles your cycles. It does not need to speak to you directly. Its structures already know how to absorb you. Think of how certain towns feel heavy with history. Perhaps a battle once raged there, or a famous figure once walked its streets, or tragedies unfolded in its squares. The awareness of such events lingers invisibly. Even if no plaques or monuments stand, you feel it. The air thickens, the stones hum faintly. The town carries what cannot be spoken openly, hidden yet alive. When you arrive, you sense this weight and recognize it. Even without knowing the story, the town greets you with its secret awareness. Even forgotten towns, half empty and fading, retain this recognition. You wander quiet streets, see shuttered windows, hear silence where life once thrived, and yet the feeling persists. You are being watched. The awareness is not gone. It lingers in the empty houses, in the overgrown paths, in the silence itself. The town may no longer bustle, but its hidden awareness remains, greeting you all the same. Dreams often place you in towns that feel both familiar and strange. You wander streets you cannot name, but know instinctively. You meet faces that blur yet seem intimate. You enter buildings you swear you have seen before. These dream towns are not random inventions but manifestations of the truth, that towns are repositories of awareness, waiting for you to recognize them, whether in waking or in sleep. There is a paradox here. You imagine you are the observer, wandering through the town, taking in its details. But the opposite is also true. The town is observing you. It measures your steps, registers your presence, folds you into its rhythms. You cannot pass unnoticed. Even if no one remembers you tomorrow, the town itself does. It carries your presence silently, hidden within its awareness. And what does this mean for identity? If towns carry hidden awareness, then who you are is not only contained within your memory, but also dispersed into the places you inhabit. A part of you remains in every town you pass through, in the market you visited briefly, in the square where you paused, in the street you crossed under fading light. You are written into the town's memory, even if you never return. This recognition unsettles the illusion of anonymity. You believe you can pass through unnoticed, but the town knows you. It has trained itself to recognize strangers, to fold them into its hidden awareness. You are not invisible, even if no one speaks to you. The town itself acknowledges your presence and preserves it in silence. So the next time you arrive in a town, pause. Listen to the hum of its streets, the rhythm of its cycles, the way eyes glance at you then look away. Notice how your body falls naturally into its patterns, how the place feels oddly familiar, even if brand new. Understand that this is not coincidence. The town is greeting you, recognizing you, adding you to its archive. Towns carry hidden awareness. They preserve presence in ways unseen, ensuring that no traveler, no stranger, no passerby is ever forgotten. And in their quiet recognition, they remind you that you are always known, even where you least expect it. Roads foresee human wanderings. Stand upon a road, and you feel its invitation immediately. It stretches forward, winding into distance, suggesting not just movement but inevitability. Roads are not simply surfaces to be crossed. They are lines of memory, carved into the earth by countless travelers, carrying with them the weight of footsteps, wheels, hooves, and dreams. Roads foresee human wanderings. They do not wait passively, they anticipate. Long before you choose your direction, the road already knows where you will go. Roads are ancient storytellers. The Silk Road carried not only goods but cultures, myths, and languages. Roman roads still exist beneath modern highways, their stones whispering of soldiers, merchants, and pilgrims. Even dirt paths carved by migration thousands of years ago linger faintly in landscapes. Roads do not vanish. They shift, they layer, they persist. And when you step onto one, your movement is not new. You are replaying wanderings rehearsed endlessly across time. Notice how roads shape your body without your awareness. You walk in rhythm with their lines. Even if lost in thought, you do not veer aimlessly. You follow curves, align with direction, obey the logic of the path. The road has already chosen your movement. Your sense of wandering feels free, but it is guided. The anticipation is woven into the road itself, which has seen countless before you wander in the same way. Roads also record moods. A road leading out of a city hums with departures, the weight of farewells, of longing, of anticipation for elsewhere. A road winding back home carries relief, familiarity, return. A road into wilderness vibrates with risk, curiosity, danger. These moods are not imagined. They are memories preserved in the road's surface, absorbed into stone, soil, and dust. When you step upon them, you feel their weight, as though your own mood is already being rehearsed by the road. Even abandoned roads carry this foresight. Overgrown with weeds, broken by cracks, they still seem to stretch forward, urging movement. You stand before one and feel pulled, even if it leads nowhere. This pull is the memory of wanderings, alive even when silence has overtaken it. The road does not need travelers to foresee. It anticipates eternally, waiting for feet, wheels, bodies to fulfill its rhythm. There is something haunting about roads at night. Streetlights flicker, horizons vanish, and still the road calls you forward. You cannot see its end, yet you trust it will guide you. This trust is not blind. It is ancient. Roads have always promised continuity, always carried people onward. When you follow one into the dark, you are surrendering to a memory older than yourself, to the foresight of paths that know human longing too well. Dreams reveal this more vividly. You may dream of endless roads, stretching into infinity, or of roads that lead you back to where you began. These are not inventions of the mind, but expressions of the truth. Roads are not neutral. They carry foresight. They know your wanderings before you make them, and your dream simply magnifies the recognition. Myths and literature echo this same truth. Heroes always find themselves upon roads. Odysseus wandering seas like roads of water, Dante guided along a darkened path, pilgrims tracing routes to sacred sites. Roads are never just geography, they are destiny, foresight made solid. They remind travelers that wandering is not chaos but a script already anticipated. And what does this mean for identity? If roads foresee human wanderings, then who you are is not only in your choices, but in the paths you inherit. Roads shaped your ancestors' migrations, their journeys, their returns. Their wanderings are written into the lines beneath your feet. You do not choose roads as much as roads choose you, guiding you into the continuation of memory already laid out. The paradox is clear. You believe you wander freely, yet the road anticipates your steps. You think you decide direction, but the road has already carved it. You imagine novelty, but the road whispers, "This has been walked before, and it will be walked again." You are not lost. You are fulfilling a foresight older than yourself. So the next time you stand upon a road, pause, look down at its surface, whether stone, dirt, or asphalt. Listen to the hum beneath it, the weight of all who passed, the pull of where it leads. Understand that it is not merely ground, it is memory, foresight, and recognition. Roads foresee human wanderings. They anticipate your presence, carry your footsteps forward, and remind you that no journey is ever only yours. Every path is already waiting, already rehearsed, already known. Squares retain forgotten stories. Step into a public square, and you are stepping into more than open space. Squares are built for gathering, and because of that, they never forget. Beneath their cobblestones or paving lies an archive of human life. Speeches delivered, protests shouted, markets held, festivals celebrated, executions performed, and countless footsteps crossing in every direction. Even if you arrive on a quiet day, the square feels heavy with presence. Squares retain forgotten stories, holding them silently, waiting for you to sense the memory that hums beneath the surface. Unlike streets or alleys that guide you forward, squares hold you in place. They are designed for pause, for gathering, for convergence. That pause is what makes them powerful. Every moment of stillness within a square has been layered upon the last, creating a memory that is less linear and more cyclical. When you stop at the center, you are standing where countless others have stopped before, each leaving behind fragments of their stories. Even if you cannot name them, you feel their weight. Consider the role squares have played in history. Cities across the world orbit their central squares: the Zocalo in Mexico City, the Piazza San Marco in Venice, the Red Square in Moscow. Each is both a heart and a stage. Speeches that changed nations were given there. Crowds gathered to demand freedom, or to witness violence. Celebrations unfolded beneath the same sky where tragedies struck. These stories may fade from memory, but the square preserves them. Its stones, its geometry, its silence carry what people forget. Even ordinary squares carry this weight: the laughter of children playing, the chatter of merchants selling goods, the rhythm of musicians performing. These sounds linger invisibly. They layer over one another, until the air itself feels alive with echoes. When you sit on a bench or walk across a square, you feel the familiarity of stories you never lived. That recognition is not imagination. It is the square greeting you with the lives it still remembers. Squares also specialize in return. They are the places people come back to, for festivals, markets, protests, or reunions. Even if the surrounding city changes, the square remains the center, rehearsing the same patterns. When you walk into one for the first time, you feel déjà vu because your body recognizes the rhythm of gathering. The square has seen it countless times, and is simply preparing you to repeat it. There is also something haunting in how squares preserve forgotten stories without revealing them fully. You sense the weight of presence, but you cannot name it. You feel watched, but no faces linger. This partial recognition creates unease. The square remembers, but it does not tell you everything. Its memory is too vast, too layered, to reduce to words. All it can do is press its awareness into you, reminding you that you are part of a story that stretches backward into silence. Even abandoned squares hold this power. Grass may grow between stones, fountains may dry, statues may crumble, but the sense of memory persists. Walk across one, and you feel it immediately, as though voices still murmur, as though footsteps still echo. The square retains the stories, even if no one remains to tell them. Dreams often return you to squares. You wander across them, searching for someone or something, or find yourself in the midst of crowds whose faces blur. These dreams are not random. They arise because squares are collective memory made physical. They represent the gathering of countless lives, and your unconscious recalls that you too are part of that archive. There is a paradox in squares. They are open and exposed, yet they conceal more than they reveal. They invite gathering, but withhold the full truth of what they hold. You imagine you are simply walking across an empty plaza, but in truth you are stepping into centuries of forgotten stories pressing beneath your feet. You believe you are the observer, but the square is observing you, folding you into its memory of gatherings. And what does this mean for identity? If squares retain forgotten stories, then who you are is not isolated. A fragment of you remains in every square you've crossed, recorded not in stone but in memory. Your laughter, your pause, your step has joined the thousands before it. You may not recall that afternoon when you crossed a plaza on your way elsewhere, but the square remembers. It carries your story alongside countless others, preserved even when forgotten. So the next time you stand in a square, pause. Look around at the buildings leaning toward the center. Listen to the faint hum of presence. Feel the way the space seems alive. Understand that you are not stepping into emptiness. You are stepping into a story already written, one that does not need your memory because it has its own. Squares retain forgotten stories. They preserve the life of communities, the echoes of gatherings, the weight of moments both monumental and mundane, and in their silent recognition, they remind you that no step across them is ever lost. You are always remembered, even when you forget. World records. Every arrival. Everywhere you go, the world greets you with recognition. You step into streets, forests, stations, markets, oceans, mountains, and each receives you as though your presence has already been accounted for. At first you think it is coincidence, some trick of memory or imagination, but the longer you notice, the clearer it becomes. The world itself is a recorder. It keeps every trace, every movement, every breath. The world records every arrival, inscribing it silently, so that you are never truly unknown and never truly forgotten. Think of the smallest gestures. The weight of your step presses into soil, the sound of your breath dissolves into air, the warmth of your body shifts the atmosphere around you. These are not erased the moment you move on. They are absorbed. The earth keeps the indentation, the air holds the vibration, the light carries the shadow. You believe you pass unnoticed, but your presence is already written into the world's archive. Consider how the world carries memory across scales. A pebble dislodged by your foot rolls slightly and will rest differently for years. A tree bends minutely as you brush past it, adjusting its growth around the trace of your touch. Even vast oceans, seemingly indifferent, carry the molecules of salt and water displaced by your body if you enter. Each arrival alters the world, and the world records that alteration. Even places you have never been seem to know you. You arrive in a new city, a new land, and feel a strange familiarity, as though the rhythm of streets, the curve of mountains, the hum of markets already expected you. This is not simply déjà vu, it is the world's recognition. The pathways you walk have been rehearsed. The air has already carried countless others like you, and your presence is folded seamlessly into memory that predates your arrival. The world records not only actions but emotions. A sigh released into the night is absorbed into silence. A cry of joy joins the hum of others who shouted in the same place before you. Tears fall, laughter carries, fear quickens breath, all of it dissolves into the world, which does not erase but preserve. That is why certain places feel heavy, others light. They are weighted with the emotions of countless arrivals recorded before yours. Even absence is recorded. The world remembers those who never returned, footsteps that did not echo again, shadows that did not reappear, voices that vanished into silence. All are preserved in the quiet archives of places. This is why ruins, deserted villages, and abandoned streets feel alive. They are not empty, they are filled with memory, still holding the weight of arrivals that never became departures. Dreams magnify this truth. You dream of walking into strange landscapes, of arriving somewhere you cannot name, of being greeted by silence that feels familiar. These dreams are not random. They reflect the reality that every arrival is remembered, even if forgotten by you. The world does not misplace memory. It keeps every trace, awake or asleep. There is a paradox here. The world is too vast to notice you, and yet it notices everything. Its scale dwarfs you, yet it records you in detail. You believe your presence is fleeting, but the world treats it as permanent. Even if your name is forgotten, the world keeps the shape of your shadow, the echo of your step, the warmth of your breath. You cannot escape recognition, because recognition is woven into reality itself. And what does this mean for identity? It means that who you are is not confined to memory within your mind or recognition from others. You are scattered across the world, inscribed into stone, soil, air, water, light. Every arrival leaves fragments of you preserved. You are not separate from the world. You are already part of its record, its ongoing archive of lives intersecting, wandering, repeating. This realization dissolves the illusion of anonymity. You cannot arrive anywhere as a stranger. The world does not allow it. The moment you step into a place, it receives you, records you, and folds you into its history. You are always already recognized, even where you believe yourself unknown. So the next time you enter a new space, a room, a city, a forest, a shore, pause. Notice how the air greets you, how the ground holds you, how the silence thickens around you. Understand that you are not just passing through, you are being written down, preserved in memory larger than your own. The world records every arrival. It remembers you without effort, silently and endlessly, ensuring that no step, no breath, no presence is ever truly lost. And in that recognition, you are reminded of a profound truth. You have never been a stranger here. You have always been known. You began this journey with the belief that you walk through the world anonymously, that your footsteps vanish, that your presence dissolves, that you pass through unnoticed. Yet with each place explored, the illusion unraveled. Streets anticipated your steps. Rooms inherited unseen memory. Cities scripted hidden lives. Forests, rivers, towers, markets, oceans and mountains all carried pieces of you. Alleys recognized you. Squares retained you. Windows reflected you. Libraries preserved you. Everywhere you went, the world whispered the same truth. You are not forgotten. You are always known. The recognition was never dramatic. It did not shout your name or announce your arrival. It worked in silence, subtle and patient. A wall holding the shadow you once cast. A garden guiding your movements before you chose them. A road anticipating your wandering. These were not coincidences but rehearsals. The world had already accounted for you, had already written you into its memory before you arrived. Think back to the doors that held quiet records. How many thresholds have you crossed, believing them forgotten? Yet each door remembers the hesitation of your hand, the rhythm of your push, the sound of your step, or the temples that contained silent scripts. How many times have you entered spaces of reverence and felt your body bow instinctively, as if remembering gestures older than yourself? These were not moments of invention, but of recognition. The world was reading you as much as you were reading it. The pattern deepens when you see how places anticipate return. Mountains know the paths of your return. Stations await familiar faces. Oceans memorize the drift of those who left and never came back. This is not imagination. It is continuity. The world does not treat your presence as fleeting. It inscribes it into paths, platforms, and currents, ensuring that when you come back you are greeted not as a stranger but as someone always expected. Even silence participates in this recognition. Walls archive shadows. Libraries preserve invisible traces. Parks rehearse meetings. Cafés remember strangers. Villages recognize ancestry. Silence in these places is not emptiness. It is density, thick with the accumulation of presences. When you pause, you can almost feel it pressing against you. You are not alone. You are surrounded by echoes of lives the world still carries. Dreams confirmed what waking life denied. Endless corridors of doors. Unreachable altars in temples. Familiar yet strange towns. Roads that loop endlessly. Oceans that pull you back. Towers that watch you silently. These dreams were not accidents. They were your unconscious recognizing what the conscious mind resists, that you cannot escape recognition. Even in sleep, the archive of the world holds you. And what does this mean for identity? It means you are not contained solely within yourself. You are scattered. A piece of you remains in every place you have touched. In alleys you walked once, in benches you sat upon briefly, in squares where you paused without thought. You are diffused into thresholds, windows, towers, markets, and roads. Your self is not singular but archived across the world, remembered endlessly in silence. There is a paradox here. The world is vast, and you are small. You believe such immensity cannot notice you, and yet it does, not with eyes or voices, but with memory. The soil holds your step. The air carries your breath. The light preserves your shadow. Every arrival is recorded. No matter how fleeting, you cannot be lost to the world, because the world refuses to lose you. Even absence is remembered. The roads you never returned to still carry your steps. The towns you visited once still retain your shadow. The oceans that touched you once still carry your salt. You may have forgotten, but the world has not. The archive is more complete than your memory. It holds what you have erased, what you thought dissolved, what you believed too small to matter. So what is left of the illusion of anonymity? It fades. You cannot enter a place unseen. You cannot depart without leaving something behind. You cannot erase yourself from the record. The world does not permit it. Its recognition is constant, patient, and absolute. And yet this truth is not frightening. It is liberating. To know that you are never lost, never erased, never unknown, this is a comfort. Even if no person remembers you, the places do. The doors, the walls, the forests, the squares, the windows, the markets, the oceans, the roads, they all carry you, waiting patiently for your return, or preserving you silently if you never do. Pause for a moment, and let this sink in. Imagine your life as scattered fragments, written across thresholds and landscapes. Imagine yourself preserved not only in memory, but in architecture, in pathways, in silence. Imagine that every step, no matter how small, is already inscribed into the world's record. Now look around you. The room you sit in remembers you. The air holds your breath. The ground carries the weight of your body. You are being recorded, even now, in this moment. The world is archiving your presence, patiently, without judgment. The conclusion is inescapable. You have never been anonymous. You have always been known. From the streets to the forests, from the squares to the oceans, from the smallest window to the entire earth itself, recognition surrounds you. The world records every arrival. It has been writing you into its archive since the moment you first opened your eyes, and it will continue long after you believe yourself forgotten. You do not wander through silence. You wander through memory. You do not walk alone. You walk with recognition. And so you return to where this began. The suggestion that every place you visit already knows you. Now you see it fully. It is not a suggestion, not a theory, but a truth. You are always arriving into awareness, always stepping into memory, always being recorded. The world does not forget. The world does not let you vanish. The world has always known you.